rise, we'll have our opening prayer and flag salute.
Heavenly Father, Lord, I just thank you so much for the opportunity that we can gather here the way that we are and the freedoms that we have in this country, Lord. Lord, I ask you to guide us in the wisdom to make decisions for this city, this community, and the best interest of this community. Lord, and give us that wisdom and knowledge. God, we love you so much. We just thank you for all you do for us. In your name we pray. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Before we get started this evening, I did want to take just a moment and brag on one of our local business members that's always here, Mark Codner, who is our everything at our local newspaper, the Newcastle Pacer. We are so fortunate to have somebody of his caliber in this community. And that was reflected in the Oklahoma Press Association Awards. He won 3 awards. 4 awards, sorry. 4 awards. That is incredible. So we appreciate you, Mark. We appreciate what you do for this community. And it's very obvious you do an outstanding job. Thank you. Yes.
Just real quick, I really appreciate this community. It's been very accepting of me. I've only been here about the last year or so, but Newcastle is a fine community, and the work that I do is a reflection of our community here. It's just an honor to be here representing and working for this community.
All right, this time I'll call the June 13th, 2022 meeting of the Newcastle Public Works Authority to order. First item on the agenda is roll call.
Carl Nell.
Here.
Mike Paulson.
Here.
Tommy Clark.
Here.
Gene Reed.
Here.
Marcy White. Here.
Item number 2, discussion with possible action on approval of the agenda.
Make a motion to approve the agenda.
Second.
Motion is second for approval of the agenda.
Mike Paulson.
Yes.
Tommy Clark.
Yes.
Gene Reed.
Yes.
Marcy White. Yes. Carl Nell.
Yes. Item number 3 is citizens' comments. This is an opportunity for any citizen to comment on any item related to the city of Newcastle that is not on the agenda. I remind any potential commenters that all speakers shall clearly state their name and address for the record. Comments are limited to 3 minutes per person with only 1 speaking opportunity. Board members will not respond to comments or questions. The chair may end comment period at his discretion, and prior authorization is required for distribution of materials or to approach the board. This time, is there any citizen comment on any matter that is not on the agenda? Seeing none, move to item number 4, consent agenda. This time, are there any members of council who would request any item be removed from the consent agenda and addressed individually?
I have a question on that.
Okay.
The, what did it say? The uncollectible, letter H, it's also down in the agenda item. So I wasn't sure if we don't just, well, it was, unless they moved it off. Maybe I'll look at the last version.
I think you wrote for the
Older version? Okay, then I'm good. Then I was just confused. I was like, wait, we already passed it, what they were talking about, so I'm good.
All right, item number 4, consent agenda.
Make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second?
Motion second for approval of the consent agenda.
Tommy Clark.
Yes.
Gene Reed.
Yes.
Marcy White. Mike Paulson.
Yes.
Carl Nell.
Yes. Item number 5, discussion of possible action on any items removed from the consent agenda. Being no action on that agenda item. Item number 6, discussion of possible action on approval of annual budget, including any amendments, fiscal year July 1, 2022 to June 30, 2023, and adoption of NPWA resolution number 2022-01.
The budget as presented back in May has changed very little on the NPWA side. It does include, as I pointed out in my budget summary to the council members, a 5% salary increase for all of the non-uniform employees of NPWA. Does not include any equipment or any vehicles at this time. If there's any questions, I'll be glad to answer them for you.
I do appreciate the opportunity to have a special meeting for deep dive into the budget. I think it's why you mentioned it.
Very helpful.
I think this was the first year too that we actually sent the entire budget. In the budget, so just wanted to make sure you got a good folder from the rest of it.
As the mayor said, I very much appreciate the process that helped us. Very much appreciate it. Six, approval of annual budget. Any amendments for fiscal year? First.
Second.
Motion second for order line number 6.
Gene Reed.
Yes.
Marcy White. Mike Fullerton.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Discussion of possible action to approve. Phase 1 water and wastewater cost service rate design $50,000. Phase 2 water and wastewater impact study not to exceed
Myself and the assistant city manager had a Zoom meeting basically with this group. Assistant city manager did some research on different companies, different firms to do a water and sewer rate study for us, for the city. And Newgen is the company that we had a Zoom meeting with and decided to select. They come highly recommended from different entities. They've also worked with multiple cities in the state. This study I think it's probably a study a type of study that hasn't been done here in the city for quite some time. I think it's time with all of the homes that we're getting, all the customers we're getting on board, the different businesses and things of that nature that's coming into our city. We need to make sure that our rate structure is fair across the board, that everybody is paying what they should be paying. That includes the single individual in a home all the way up to some of our largest businesses that we have here. So this is what they proposed, and you did get their proposal in your packet. But this will also include not only a water sewer study, rate study of Newcastle, it will also include a study to determine if we are charging these other entities a reasonable or fair wheeling charge. Whether or not we're actually charging enough, maybe, I know we're not charging or too much, but it needs to determine what that fee needs to be if we're actually recouping our operations and maintenance costs through that wheeling charge, what they're using. I believe that's the only question I had on that. When I had you call back, is that correct?
The wheeling charge is just the, maintenance for our piece of travel along the line when someone else is buying water from us.
Correct.
that and compensate us for the infrastructure needed to be able to supply that water.
Okay, gotcha. For building and maintenance, then I guess.
Yes.
And of course, they will compare our rates with our Oklahoma City rates that just got renewed through a rate study that they did, and they laid out a 5-year plan of our rates, what they would be, and what they would be increasing over the next 5 years. So we need to make sure that we're staying on top of that. We need to make sure that we're accounting for consumer price index inflation, which we all know is outrageous at this point. But we need to make sure that we are taking care of the cost. We're selling water to these entities that our citizens, our businesses are not subsidizing that water to those other entities.
I've got a couple of questions. So what's the deliverable, Kevin? What's the deliverables on this?
You mean as far as what the rates they're going to provide or how they're going to provide it, or?
Yeah, I mean,
pretty good chunk of change. They're consultants, get that. I have a high regard recommendation, so, but still, I look through that and I find myself curious. I mean, will they just say, here's some recommendations, before you go, and
No, it's based off of long-term studies that have been done using specific formulas, methods that have been around since the 50s and 60s, literally. And they'll go through our budgets. I mean, there's a lot of paperwork, documents that we have to send them.
it sounds like a lot of work on your part too.
And to some degree, I mean, it's just forwarding documents.
Is what?
It's just forwarding documents to them, is all the way. This is probably a 6-month study, maybe 8 months. We hope to have this, if council approves, we hope to have it done and rates established by January 1. We may not get there because it is a lot of work.
So there are so many variables there. The variables are going to change time too. So I ask of the deliverable, I mean, are they, they're there, when they're complete, what, I mean, engage them, is an evergreen or renewable type of consulting that will do for us? Or?
We should be doing a rate study at a minimum every 5 years. So, I mean, yes, we would go back, look to see where we're at as cost over. At that point, I would assume that it would not be as in-depth as this initial study would be, simply because that information has never been done. And the rate studies that I have seen over the past 10 to 12 years has been very minimal. And I mean, but what was done, it was good. We just need to make sure that we're still on track and what, if anything, needs to be.
You literally think it'll pay for itself, or just keep us out of problems, or I mean, that's a lot of money to recover in. Hopefully, we'll get payback for it. Nothing else, you'll know you're on solid ground, right?
Right.
Which of those two do you think is most important?
Knowing that we're on solid ground and that our citizens are being charged fairly. That's what I'm at.
I think I'm seeing not only the building charge that pass through cities we're selling. I think as we grow citizenry, I believe there's opportunity to wrong in this. Right now, we've got a very high rate. It might be growth and added spreading of the infrastructure cost over at least might be the rates for local citizens could be. We should need to understand that if we do have a rate a certain way, we have reason to say this is the cost structure of our infrastructure, everything else goes across. This is why we have to charge this. Because this is what it costs us to provide this. It's not just we're saying what everybody does. I think it's money's.
Well, and also they'll give us this. They're going to give us forecasted, and we can follow it according to our growth too for maybe up to 5 years, whatever. They're going to give us a forecast, so we don't need them again in 2 years. They can say, well, when you get to 11,000, then you need to move it, right?
Yeah, it's exactly, and that's exactly what they did for Oklahoma City.
Okay.
That'd be the example of a deliverable.
Yeah.
They give you a working model that carries forward.
Right.
So you talked to other cities as well.
We did not. We have not talked to other cities. Did you contact any?
I didn't.
yet?
No, we talked with the Chicken Foundation when they were
We
here
did
at our
talk to
meeting, and they had helped multiple cities within their boundaries, and that's who they used. They worked with the nation and each of those cities boundaries as well. But we did go to that conference, that meeting up in the city. They used a different company, but they walked us through what these cities, what the study looks like, how it works, and so it was very knowledgeable to help us understand why we need this.
Did they put this together for you to pass on to us? these 3 pages of cities.
They did.
I think they missed a golden opportunity to help us to see the advantage, because 3 or 4 of these focus more on trash collection.
Sure, they do all types of different studies.
But that's what these focus on.
Right.
2 of them talked about actually did a rate study, but it didn't say that they were pleased with it, they didn't say they recommended it. I was surprised how this review, but still, if they make a presentation to you, I'm gonna trust you to do that. But if you're gonna send something to our council who's gonna vote on supporting it,
Right.
my feedback to them is you missed a golden opportunity to tell us how pleased your customers were, how well it's working. I don't see a single testimonial in here. So I trust that you, I mean, you must have enough comfort level to,
I do. We spent about an hour and a half, 2 hours in the meeting and going through everything, and I am comfortable with it. You know, one of the other things that, as far as the rates go on water and sewers, is I want to make sure that we're looking at a structured tiered rate system. Right now, we have one base rate,
Right.
and that's it, and that's for residents and business. And I just don't know that that's a proper way to go about that. I don't know of other cities that do it that way. I'm sure there are, but most of your cities do a tiered rate system where your larger customers that pull more water, they're paying a larger amount for that water.
well, if I may, we also learned the hard way that it's difficult to anticipate the ongoing maintenance required, and if you're not collecting enough, such as lift stations, if you're not collecting enough, our citizens pay eventually one way or the other anyway for it, so.
Right.
So I would say that would probably help you on that.
What we've done in the past, we found out even with the basic studies we've done, that for years and years and years, we were subsidizing our water department with city sales tax.
Right.
Because we wanted to keep rates low. But we were close to $500,000 a year we were subsidizing, and so we made an effort back then to right-size those rates, to make sure water was paying for water, sewer was paying for sewer, and not subsidize the general fund for those. This will be a much more in-depth study. And for me, they come very highly recommended by Chickasaw Nation, which has dealt with them with multiple communities, and that does carry a little bit of weight for me.
The other piece that I did tell them we want to avoid is revenue reduction. So we don't want our revenue level that we have right now dropping any lower than it is. But at the same time, those rates need to be structured to ensure that we're maintaining the exact same revenue that we're pulling in, at least right now.
Right.
Well, I think we need to address these, as items 7A and item 7B in such questions. I will entertain a motion.
Make a motion to approve agenda item 7A, approve proposal from New Gen for water and wastewater cost of service rate design study not to exceed $50,000.
Second.
Motion is second for approval of item 7A.
Mike Fullerton,
Yes.
Tony Klein,
Yes.
Gene Reed.
Yes.
Marcy White, yes. Earl Down.
Yes. Item 7B, phase 2.
Make a motion to approve agenda item 7B, phase 2, water and wastewater impact fee study not to exceed $30,000.
Second.
Motion is second for approval of item number 7B.
Mike Fullerton,
Yes.
Tony Klein.
Yes.
Gene Reed.
Yes.
Marcy White, yes. Earl Down.
Yes. Item number 8, discussion with possible action on approval of real estate purchase agreement between Wayne Mark Owen and the city of Newcastle, Newcastle Sports Complex expansion project.
You want me to speak on this, or do you want to speak? So Mr. Owen has signed the agreement for the purchase of this property, at the price that was negotiated. Really, it seems like, now at least it's a fairly simple procedure to go closing, within 30, 45 days. We've already got our financing in place, so just need the approval and the agreement of council so chooses.
And I'll jump in a little bit. The city manager really did the heavy lifting on this. Did the hard work when he negotiated to begin with. The price is exceptional. Once we got the property appraised, the appraisal was significantly higher than what he had negotiated. And Mr. Owen was also very kind about that. Once that came in, so he stuck to his guns, he stuck to his word about the price he was going to offer this property to the city. I thought that was very interesting to watch the dynamic between these two guys, because they really did a good job for your city. So then we worked through, had some questions about whether he could use some of that appraisal difference for tax purposes. And we didn't really, weren't really in a position to give him tax advice, but we encouraged him to go meet with his own CPA, which he did. And then, so that's kind of what slowed things down a little bit. And once he was satisfied there, he came back to the original $950,000 price. So at this point, it is pretty much just check off a couple of boxes, and we've set the closing for the middle of June. So we'll have that July, so we'll have that.
I'm excited about that piece of property.
Opens up lots of opportunities, that's not there.
Well, I can tell you, the plans are right now to immediately go in after closing and start knocking down trees and creating a temporary parking lot to get people off of Highway 130.
Yes.
So that's our goal.
Need a motion?
You need a motion.
Make a motion to approve item 8.
Second.
Motion second for approval, item number 8.
Mike Fullerton,
Yes.
Tommy Clay.
Yes.
Gene Reed.
Yes.
Marcy White. Yes. Ron Lee.
Yes. Item number 9, monthly treasurer's report.
First, I want to apologize for just not emailing you guys this. I kind of lost track of my emails. I was sitting there because you all had already asked me if I sent it. It had been done, but I had it sitting in draft, so you got it just barely before the meeting. We are at, keep in mind this report is always in arrears, so we're in the 11th month on this report. Ideally, we should be at 91.7% execution rate. Everybody's rolling along. We haven't had anything too crazy yet. We got all the vehicles in, I think, except the dump truck. I believe, sir, is that right?
I'm sorry.
Just the dump truck is the only thing we're lacking?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. All right, and our sales and use tax came along with what they were very close to what we anticipated to do when we looked for the revenues here last month or the month before. That being said, our sales and use tax totaled $877,000 this month. Of that, $748,000 was sales, and $129,000 was use tax. That is up quite a bit from last month, and with that immediate tax revenues, we're now 0.66 more than where we were budgeted to be during May, and we're 12.15% higher than our monthly target. Compared to our previous years, we're 13.16% higher than last year, and 20.51% higher than the year before. Our current indebtedness is $3.862 million. Everything's being paid as should be. We just made one of our big payments on the fire station lane. And then our fund balances overall are sitting at 18.1 million, with general fund being at 3.6 million. The capital improvement tax fund at 2 million, economic development at 38,000, cemetery care fund at 64,000, parks capital improvement is now at 76. Fire station fund is now at 1.820. This Kevin did authorize that one-time transfer to increase that with anticipation of what we got coming up. Our admin and tech fund is now 106,000, and our grant cost share fund is 1.87 million. Keep in mind, Kevin authorized the one-time transfer for the grant cost share fund this year, so we didn't have to budget for that last year, which greatly helped our deficit there. So we don't have any budgeted for revenue for that grant cost share at this point in time for next year, because we did such a big one here a month or two ago. The fire department tax fund contributed almost $1.1 million. that we have spent $2.6 million for on our operations of our fire department. The PWA fund is sitting at $2.8 million. We have $1.1 in water impact fee, $1.2 million in sewer impact fee, and our wastewater plant fund is now sitting at $3.5 million. Just want to remind you guys that $930,000 of that is our ARPA money. We just wanted to hold it somewhere. $223,000 is from the program that Jeanette got us involved in, the NPWA, which is specifically for the wastewater plant. Our transportation impact fee is sitting at $81,000. And that's all I have right now. And the budget amendment is big. Most of that is salaries, the vast majority of it. And we are putting back more than we're taking out. So, are there any questions for me? Thank you.
All right, thank you, Jean. Item number 10, general manager's report.
I really don't have anything at this point. Things are starting to change a little bit now that we finally got the budget and all the negotiations out of the way and everything else, and we can start refocusing on projects and things of that nature, at least from my office.
Item number 11, trustees' comments.
I'll ask of you and of our city manager, our reporting probably is lagging a little bit behind the nation, but in light of the national economy, are we just gritting our teeth and anticipating, do you think tax revenues will take a hit? What's your outlook for the next 90 days, for instance?
You want to start your
Well, I actually think that due to the price of consumables, we don't have a lot of, shopping mall type businesses out here. Most of our revenue comes from the things that people need, no matter how much money they have. And the price of all those things has increased, which means we'll probably end up with the same or more. Where I see it really impacting the city significantly is the cost of operations. We've got a pretty good raise coming up, which our employees deserve, but that's going to be hard to keep it even with that. Diesel fuel is out the roof. We use a lot of gas and diesel, and so we may have a hard time keeping up based on the expenses and all. We go up significantly more than the revenues do. But that'll start to flesh itself out, like you say, in the next.
Of course, we're in good company because every city in our state is facing the same thing, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely.
Or, I guess that's good company. We're in company.
We did put some buffer in the budget, especially for fuel costs. I hope it's enough. But we did budget about 40 to 45% more in fuel costs, and then I heard last night it's up 49%. So, I think at least for the short term, people will continue to spend. I have a little bit more concern, I guess, because I'm tight. But I do think once you get past that 90-day mark, if things continue the way they are, I mean, tightening has to take place somewhere. And consumer spending is where it will start. So, long term for the full fiscal year, yes, I think we'll probably have to, well, it's possible, we may have to pull a little bit from fund balance. Now, the good thing about this is, though, even though we're not as conservative this year as we have been during the COVID years, we're still budgeting conservatively as far as our revenue take, pulling in, and also our expenses. So, we're still a little bit below what may possibly come in for the full fiscal year, and I think that will give us a little bit of cushion to help us. Do I have concerns? Yes, sir, I do. Absolutely. It's anybody's guess as to what's going to happen over the next 12 months.
And just, I'm a little more glass half full guy than Kevin, so, we can look at things happening, Ziggy's Coffee is getting ready to start construction.
Okay.
Dollar Tree has started construction. We'll probably see San Marco start construction, in the next few months, depending on how their stuff comes out with their contractors. So, you know, we're gonna get some additional sales tax generators added on, and, so I think that will help us. So I'm a little more optimistically than Kevin, but that's why he and I get along so well.
Well, I mean, I think,
I look at it, G for sure.
Yeah.
if we can go through COVID like we went through, and of course, I know it's a different dynamic, because everybody got forced inside, and the use taxes, sales tax will still be able to be collected because they're still online and all that kind of stuff, but does that work? This is, be a little different, but the truth is that right now, America's a spending country, people like to spend, they like to do, they like to, unfortunately, probably spend beyond their means a lot. But unless the wheels completely fall off, I don't see that nature changing.
Takes a while to change it, yeah.
So, my biggest concern is legislation, changing taxes that we collect, like grocery tax,
Which that will impact cities, but they'll only do that for the state.
it's just on the state side.
It's on the state side. The one area that may impact us is if things happen and housing slows down, we do reap a significant amount of sales tax via the items used to build houses, so that could get us, but I guess we'll see.
Thank you.
Any other trustee comments? All right, item number 12 is adjourned.
Make a motion for adjournment.
Second.
Motion second to adjourn, all in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? We are adjourned. This time we'll call the June 13th, 2022 meeting of Newcastle City Council to order. First item on the agenda is roll call.
Carl Nell.
Here.
Mike Fullerton.
Here.
Tommy Clay.
Here.
Gene Reed.
Here.
Marcy White. Here.
Item number 2, discussion and possible action on approval of the agenda.
Make a motion to approve the agenda.
Second.
Motion and second for approval of the agenda.
Mike Fullerton.
Yes.
Tommy Clay.
Yes.
Gene Reed.
Yes.
Marcy White. Yes. Carl Nell.
Yes. Item number 3, citizens' comments. This is an opportunity for any citizen to comment on any matter related to the city of Newcastle that is not on the agenda. Same rules apply as in public works. All speakers shall clearly state their name and address for the record. Comments are limited to 3 minutes per person with only one speaking opportunity. Council members will not respond to comments or questions. The mayor may in comment period at his discretion require authorization if required to distribution of materials or to approach the council. At this time, is there any public comment related to the city of Newcastle that is not on the agenda? All right, seeing none, we'll move to item number 4, consent agenda. Is there any item number any member of council would like removed from the consent agenda and dealt with individually? Seeing none, item number 4, consent agenda.
Motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Motion second for approval of the consent agenda.
Mike Fullerton.
Yes.
Tommy Clay.
Yes.
Gene Reed.
Yes.
Marcy White. Yes. Carl Nell.
Yes. Item number 5, discussion of possible action on any items removed from the consent agenda. Agenda item. Item number 6, discussion of possible action on recommendations of planning commission. Item 6A, public hearing, discussion, and possible action on planning commission recommendations for approval of application of rezoning from A agriculture to PUD planned unit development for Dwight E. Collins Revocable Trust located in the north half of the southeast quarter of section 22 township 9 North 94 West Indian Meridian, Plain County, Oklahoma, and for adoption of ordinance number 913. Property location west of Main Street and approximately quarter-mile north of Southwest 16th Street, Newcastle, Oklahoma, case number R 2022-005.
Is it? She's trying to go to She's trying to get connected to
Camille.
It's okay, hold on. Here we go. My apologies for the technical delay there. Janae Green with the Planning Department. As you stated, this request is for Resolution R 2022-005, rezone from A, General Agricultural District, to a PUD planned unit development. This is the site that is the proposed rezoning. This is on South Main Street. This is the site outlined here in red. As you can see, the surrounding zoning, this is the CC2, this is the City of Newcastle property. E1, same thing to the west, and E2, PUD and Pedras to the south. Excuse me, another PUD with E1, and then abutting along Main Street, we have currently CC2, Ag, and then IM1. This is the liquor store site and the two houses here that are currently, still people are living there. That is the proposed site for rezoning and surrounding zoning. As you can see, this is undeveloped agricultural land. This is the master development plan. There are two tracks within this PUD. Tract 1 is going to be here, up here on, fronting on Main Street, with the access here on Main Street. It's a boulevard type access. This will fall under the CC2 permitted use. And then track 2 here is for RF1 single family residential. We've had developments with this. Initially when they came in, they did submit their preliminary plat with their PUD. We have adjusted the PUD to reflect the changes that are happening with the preliminary plat, because they did a traffic impact analysis and are sending that to ODOT for their recommendations. And if you refer back to the PUD language in the narrative, it states in the PUD that they will design all access according to all ODOT recommendations. So that's why we let their PUD go ahead and go through, and they'll be making those adjustments on their preliminary plat and hope to have that to Planning Commission for the June 27th Planning Commission meeting.
What might change on that, like the
Well,
entrance or something?
they initially when they submitted the preliminary plat and we went through plat review, they only had this one access proposed and an emergency access only here for emergency vehicle access. We asked that they look at it and do a traffic impact study and have another access, and they have in fact made an agreement with the
Okay.
property owners here to the south.
I was wondering when I first looked at it, I thought that's what houses for them.
Yeah,
Okay, good.
they have obtained that, and now we have got that first. We got the traffic impact study back, and then the ODOT will make their recommendations, and they will make the changes according to those recommendations by ODOT.
Janae, excuse me for interrupting, would you remind me of the property owner to, just south of the, just to the south of their property, they're on 62.
This here,
That's EC1, not the liquor store, but the property above it.
There,
Yes, is that a home?
That's on Brian.
yeah, currently there are 1, 2, so here's the liquor store property, and then there's single family house, and I believe there still is a single family house there.
But it's on CC2 already?
Yeah,
Oh, thank you.
some time ago it was on
There's a
CC2.
renter in that house.
Okay,
Yeah, so,
yeah, thank you. Sorry to interrupt.
It's okay.
I don't remember what that was.
so did I understand correctly that that road, the plan is going, basically, these two houses are going to
That
go
is
away?
correct.
What you're talking about?
That is correct.
I think I saw it there.
one thing that's very refreshing about this PUD is it's the first one we've had in a long, long time that's came in with 7,200 square foot lots, which is kind of where we want to go. So each one of these lots will have, at a minimum, 1,200 more square feet than a Fox Hollow or Windermere. And so these are a little bit bigger lot, be more along the lines of what we have in Farmington. And so 1,200 square foot makes a lot of difference in way those developments look and how they build out.
Yes, that's correct. 7,200 square foot lots for 259 single-family residential lots. And then the one lot abutting on Main Street that will be developed under the CC2, like I said. The comp plan of 1986 did designate this as residential. The minimum livable square footage for each house is 1,250 square feet. There's an 85% masonry requirement on all facades in the PUD. And the development regulations for tract 1 and 2 will be followed per base zoning district, meaning that they didn't make any adjustments to setbacks for RF1 or the CC2. Planning staff supports and planning commission did recommend the approval of R 2022-005. I'm happy to answer any questions, and the applicant's representative is here if you have any additional questions.
Is there any public comments?
Well, we'll get to that. We do this first.
Okay. Well, I don't.
Yeah.
There was no,
Oh, you're planning.
Yeah.
right, there was no
I'm not trying
protest.
to do your job for you. I know my place. So were there during planning?
No.
Go back to the plan.
The master development
Yes,
plan
ma'am.
this year? Yes, sir.
What size are the lots at the back?
These are all 7,200 square foot. They
Okay.
have to meet that minimum 7,200 square foot requirement for the RF1.
Is this gonna be a lock area?
This here, this here, are you looking at this?
Yes.
Now, obviously, this is a picture of that master development plan, so it's kind of a little bit distorted if you're just looking comparison-wise of the lots. But on that preliminary plat, they have to verify that they meet that minimum lot area. Yeah, sure, yeah.
Real quick, Mason Schwartz on behalf of the applicant. I don't want to repeat everything that was said, so I'll certainly answer any questions, but just addressing the one in terms of the western access, that is an emergency fire access that's required to meet fire codes. That is going to be a gated access.
Crash gate.
Crash gate,
Where's that come from?
Dickerson.
Dickerson.
And is that microphone on? Okay.
Can you hear it?
Oh,
There we go.
Okay, now, just for others coming up,
And I'd be happy to answer any other questions. I don't want to repeat, it doesn't take much time.
Could you give me your last name real
Sure, it's Mason Schwartz.
quick? Short.
Schwartz,
Schwartz.
SCHWARTZ.
Can we ask who's the developer or builder? What's the plan on that?
ADG, American Development Group. And they are associated with Roush Coleman Homes.
well, I think we've developed an appetite when we do see new developments. I don't know if I can speak for everyone. I'm developing an appetite for keeping our lots at least 7,200. So that, I appreciate that. I'm glad to see that. I think we, and I don't know if this is a fair question or not, but, the entry, are these like entry-level homes, or these?
Well, the minimum, what they have in the PUD, their regulation is 1,250 square feet of livable area. So that excludes garages and porches, so their livable area, that's the minimum.
It's really.
What I will say about the prior developments that Roush Coleman has done, they've come in with a very low minimum, and I don't know if they've built any that small, it's been very, very few, and most of them have been much bigger than that. They've been around that 1,400 and up. And I asked them one time, why did they just come in with that?
Right.
They wanted flexibility, so I just.
Well, the market switches for them. I mean, I think right now they'll build, I would purchase and what people are willing to buy. If they can sell the larger religious homes, they're going to sell it, but I think they want the ability to, if the market shifts in the next 5 to 6 years, development typically takes five years to build out a lot of times.
One thing, not a concern, but an interest, is that we're about to get a really big hospital right down the road, and that's really gonna dictate larger houses than 1,207 square foot. I mean, our market is gonna be, there's gonna be a lot of people working at that hospital, and there's a lot of higher paying jobs. They're not looking for those entry-level homes in those type of jobs, so I'm hopeful that's what they'll be targeting with that coming in and all the other stuff we've had come in here. Because we've had a whole lot of starter-level homes lately, and we haven't hardly had any that go above that. Coachella does, and Pedros is, but there's not a lot that are going above starter level right now.
Ridge 2, Meadow Creek.
Meadow Creek.
Yeah,
Riverview.
we've got some decent
I
sized.
mean, that's quite a few, really, they're just scattered around.
Well, a lot of
We
those
see
are about to
this,
finish out though.
these jump out at us all day long. I mean, because there's a lot of houses that jumps out, but there's been a decent fair amount.
Oakmont.
You have something
Bigger house.
Yeah, I would just add on that, and the 1,200 obviously is the minimum.
Yeah.
Obviously, that's just one model, multi-model approach they have with these kind of developments. But the 7,200 square foot lot, being as big as it is, gives them that ability to scale that square footage of the home up, like you wouldn't be able to see on some smaller lots. So certainly that's not what they're trying to do, the 1,200 throughout all of this, but as the gentleman said, it's the flexibility. It could be a situation where they need it for 4 or 5 lots. Smarter people than me crunch the numbers, but the flexibility is the key on that low end number.
Yes, that's my opinion. On my side, I feel like there needs to be a little bit of variance in different size of homes and some of the subdivisions. I mean, we've got these just, I'm not gonna call them cookie cutters, but they're the same style homes and the same floor, pretty much. And, you know, we all witnessed this over here at Windermere. And we got homes that are not that, I mean, it's enough that needs to be multiple different levels inside some of our subdivisions. And we're not seeing it.
Is that our,
It's not
is
really
that our
call.
place? Is it our call?
I
Our call is we set rules and regulations
know,
and for them to follow, and if it's zoned this way, then there is a business and then put the money there probably to build what it is selling.
I think we did see in Windermere, on the LGI side especially, where they started building a few two-story homes with larger square footages, and they sold quickly, and they built significantly more, and that's about all they're building now, it seems like. So there is quite a bit of variation in Windermere, more so than it would have been starting out, because they're actually ending up building a lot larger square foot home than they intended going in. However, I mean, I agree with you, but I don't know if that's under our purview either.
I know, and that's one of those, that's what color the door is.
Yeah.
My-
Okay, so that is the minimum, you know, so it doesn't mean that it can't be more. And as long as it follows the RF1 base district regulations for the development. So, I mean, they could go up to 2 stories potentially. I mean, it depends on what the market is saying, I guess, on how they develop it. But that is the minimum. And they're going a little bit above, I mean, they're doing the 85% masonry as well.
The masonry percentage is in there as well, so that's good.
What, I know it can flex greatly, but right now, what's the timeline that they have for these? And I know it can change quickly.
Sure, I really can't even give you an estimate, I'm just not sure in terms of, I know that the timeline is very quick on the contract, that's why we're here today on the PUD without the plat. They've got a short turnaround, so if this gets approved, I mean, they're closing on the land, and I'm sure it's gonna be, you know, as quick as one would dictate, but I can't give you the exact.
That's fine, no problem.
Any other council questions or comments?
Did I miss it, or have they indicated what type of business might go in 162? or
It just,
what?
the permitted use is under CC2, only the permitted uses, not anything that would be under the UPOR, which would require a special use. So they're only allowing those permitted uses.
Any public comment concerning this agenda item? Please approach the podium and state your name and address for the record.
Hi, my name is Amy Gregg, and I'm a resident here in Newcastle, Oklahoma. I actually,
What's your address?
I'm sorry, 1282 South Dickerson. So I had actually contacted the council, excuse me, the city regarding getting information regarding the meetings, and unfortunately, the website isn't very easy to navigate, and I wasn't given a time of when the meeting was. I was also provided that referral to that houses around Gaillardia would also be lesser expensive and allowed. I was advised that these houses would probably start around $300,000. I researched sales around Gaillardia. There are $300,000. There's homeowners association fees, but they are also gated communities. Their lots are approximately at least 7,000 in square footage, which I know that this does meet, and I'm glad that it meets. I believe one of you, I don't know if it was Marcy or Mr. Fulton, stated that they would like to see a gradient. And I understand that, I think it was Mr. Fulton, Michael. This is very passionate to me, sorry. We have, as many of you have already stated, we have a lot of starter homes here in Newcastle. There is absolutely nothing wrong with starter homes. We've all been there. But we don't have a lot of what I would want to say level 2 homes. I'm not asking for another huge housing addition. I'm asking for something that Michael referred to as maybe a step, where the front, the area 1 would be maybe a starter home area. You have Pedro's that just started a beautiful location there off of Southwest 16th. Granted, they're probably half acre. The first building, the first housing being built in there is estimated to be at $800,000. I'm not saying that we don't want people behind us. I'm just saying be considerate of those people that have a half acre to 5 acres around the perimeter of this building to help their housing keep up their price that they have put into them. That's what I'm asking. I'm not asking to stop growing. The Newcastle recently put out a survey of what we want to see in Newcastle in 40 years. These starter homes are being built and being rented out. These aren't people that are invested in Newcastle. If we want that type of city in 10, 20, 40 years, then we need people that are invested for life here in Newcastle. And I don't think any one of us would still live in a 1,200 square foot home. I don't know what everyone lives in, excuse me. And a 12 square foot home, there's absolutely nothing wrong with a 1,200 square foot home. But it also brings down the value of property of those that have stepped up and built something more for themselves and their families to grow into. Even a 3-car garage, I was reading, even a 3-car garage house, I don't know of a 1,200 square foot home or a 1,500 square foot home that regularly has a 3-car garage. These people, there's 259 houses. You have 2 vehicles per house. You're looking at over 500 cars in that small area. Those people have 1 to probably 3 children that are going to grow and have even more vehicles. You even have 1 extra vehicle. You're looking at over almost 700 vehicles in one small area. All I ask is to consider that the perimeter housing on the backside, the housing that goes against Pedro's, the housing that backs up to Dickerson, and the housing that backs up to, and I apologize, I don't know what that street that the dentist office is on.
We don't either.
Okay. At least I'm not the only one.
Fifth Street.
Fifth, Southwest Fifth. Thank you. So I know that all of us have been there for a long time. We don't want to stop growth. Newcastle needs the growth. Been here 25 years. I knew being in the L of Norman and South Oklahoma City, easy access, we were going to grow. I'm not upset about the growth. I'm just asking to stop greed. Mr. Self himself said that there's going to be test run for our utilities, our water utilities. It's going to take approximately 8 months. Just pause for a minute. That's what I'm asking. Consider giving those people who have built homes that would have a higher equity value, but also be lowered if a lower starter home was built beside them. That's what I ask. Thank you.
Can I just a quick technical point and one more response? So the 1250, again, being the minimum, is exclusive of the garages, and the PUD requires a 2-car enclosed garage for every house. So 1250 for every house plus the minimum 2-car garage for each is the absolute minimum. And again, this 7,200 square foot lots is not the kind of lot that you look at and normally see these days as a starter home. You normally see it as somewhere between 5,200 and 6,000 square feet. Roush Coleman does do certain neighborhoods that are starter home neighborhoods, and that's what you see. And the idea in those neighborhoods is to meet the current market is more square footage of the home, less yard area, less upkeep and maintenance. 7,200 square foot lots, if they're going to try to cram nothing but 1,200 square foot homes into it, which wouldn't make sense. Obviously, we come in asking for a smaller lot size. So with the 7,200 square foot lots, it makes more sense to fill up more space, use that ability to fill up more space. And this is a flexibility issue for them, having that minimum number in case they need to be able to go down to that. But certainly, I don't think that's what you'd expect is, you know, throughout the entirety of the neighborhood with 7,200 square foot lot, it wouldn't make sense to do that.
Thank you. And I'll kind of echo that. And what we've seen develop in the city, the 7,200 square foot lot, you know, in this addition, if they would have done a 6,000 square foot lot, that would have been 40 more at least lots in there. So in order to get their money back, typically you'll see a bigger home than the homes we see in Fox Hollow, that we saw in Bradford 4 and 5 especially. So, you know, I would anticipate it would, but that's another one of those things. We don't have the ability to dictate that. We don't have the ability, if we could get some of our local developers like Chris, who's done an amazing job at Pacelli, you know, I'm on land to build more really nice houses. But it takes a significant investment from people like Chris and others out here to do that, and we would love to see that. But we're not in a position where we can dictate to the developers very much. And I say oftentimes that zoning is probably one of the most difficult things we deal with as a city, because it's incredibly impactful to those that are closest to it. And no, I'll just kind of, I'll pick on it Amy a little bit, but where you live now is all 5 acre tracts.
No, it's not.
Huh?
It's not.
And now it's not. And we have people literally screaming and yelling at us because we entertained the idea of splitting those into the smaller tracts, which is one of the ones you live on.
Yes.
And so, you know, it's very impactful to those. But we understand, and I am hopeful that we get a much bigger house in this development, and I think we will get a bigger home because of the 7,200 square foot. You know, we've got down south, we've got Farmington Edition with 7,200 square foot lots being developed by Home Creations, who does 6,000 square foot lots, just like the other developers do. But on those 7,200 square foot lots, they're building a much larger home than they are building on their 6,000 square foot lots. So I'm hoping that we see that different developer, of course, And I'm hoping we see that trend follow through and we do get larger homes in this addition, because there is a demand. You're absolutely right. There is demand. Marcy's right. There's gonna be a large health facility there that's gonna employ a lot of people. There's gonna be demand for them to have a place to live. And so I think it's a good opportunity for the developer to build some bigger, nicer homes and still make plenty of money doing so. So,
And I will say that when I lived in Texas, Roush Coleman built nice, very, very nice houses in really nice areas. So, I mean, I don't doubt the ability at all.
so,
Can I ask you a question?
yes, please.
Do I need to go up there?
Yes, please.
It's okay. So, again, is there, and I don't know if you all know this, or I need to figure out how to attend a planning and zoning committee meeting, is, do they do it in like percentages, that may be an X percentage, and maybe this is something Mr. Schwartz you can, like a percentage is only, like I said, I don't want to stop building. I just want people who, I mean, my house isn't worth $800,000 by any means, but a percentage to where we aren't overflowing with not even 1,200, but 1,500 square feet, to where there is a buildup, so it, once again, that it doesn't, and just on the perimeters of where people are like Pedro's. Let's just take, for instance, because Pedro's is going to be high-end housing, where it doesn't take any of their equity away from their value.
And once again, there's things that we as a, and this is a planning and development application, so we're limited. I mean, we can negotiate certain things in there, but if we try to negotiate too much, they can come back and submit this as straight RF1. And under a straight RF1 zoning, based on recent state law, we have no ability to mandate any type of facade. They can build all houses with vinyl siding if they wanted to under straight RF1. So we have to be careful with what we request when we negotiate planning and developments, because this one is pretty much coming in primarily as an RF1. But yet then they're giving us things like 85% facade and those type of things. So we're limited somewhat in what we can, well, we're limited a lot in what we can do to dictate to developers how they must develop within the zoning areas. It would be nice, you know, if they had, I would love to see much bigger lots, I would love to see much bigger houses, but that's not something that we have the ability to do.
So can some of those restrictions be done through HOAs?
Well,
I'm just asking.
the plan unit development and the plat you've already seen, that sets the lot size.
Right.
And it sets the minimum square footage. So that's set. Now, if the HOA wanted to do some things later on, they could do things that wouldn't impact the lot size, but they impact other things. However, you must remember that HOA is governed by usually the preponderance of the ownership of the lots in that development, which is known to be the developer until such time as they get pretty far developed out. So the developer is going to make up the rules for that HOA.
7,000 square foot lots is, that's not that bad. Honestly, can be a very well utilized lot.
Yeah, that's a nice size. Like I said, you drive through Farmington, compare that to some of the other 6,000, it's a world of difference.
It is.
And we are moving towards that being what we really want. But when we get into telling them how to develop within an approved development, then that's not really something we have a lot of ability to do.
I think we can go back to 3 meetings ago when we talked specifically about that as a council, we were ready to make it be no less than 7,200 even in PUDs and stuff that we allowed that. So it's, I mean, it's definitely been on our hearts that we understand that the type of lots that people are wanting to come into, that we think we've allowed enough of that in those 6,000 square footers, but now it's time to bring it back to an RF1 now. Wouldn't hurt my feelings at all to change RF1 to 8,500, 9,000. I just don't think it's gonna happen. But that's.
Property's too expensive right now.
Well, I mean, it would be nice, but anyway, so we definitely feel it, and we want to, but then, as Carl says, there's only so much we can do.
I will tell you, I'm, I think the newest of the bunch, and I'm a real nerd about following rules and having the ground to stand on. It's not in me. I mean, that's the bottom line. And I get frustrated, but then I have to remember, I'm the person who believes in a free market and free enterprise system, and the market dictates what it wants. We don't want another pizza place. We all need to stop buying from them 24/7. They're all too busy to deliver pizzas to us, and there's how many of them, you know? And so you have to be careful what you wish for, because then you lose stuff that you really like. And we really appreciate the free market, because I could walk out 3 years ago and say, I'm starting my own business, and nobody got to tell me no. Got to, you know? And so I struggle with it, but at the same time, I have to remember that the flip side is, it's what we demand, it's what our people are demanding. So you hear me, you hear my frustration comes like, can you please build big houses? But it's only an ask.
Well, and I guess that's why I brought up the survey.
Yeah.
Because,
Right.
because, like I said, once again, I don't want to stop building.
Right.
There's nothing wrong with smaller housing
Sure.
additions. But for that 40-year plan that you all have, that the city has set out to get feedback in, it's not going to be from renters. It's not going to be from,
Right. And that gives us, it'll give us some guidance.
you know.
It
That-
will.
that's, I mean, just consider that direction, because we need people invested in Newcastle.
I agree,
Yeah.
and then there are certain developers that refuse to sell to investment groups, and I appreciate that.
Yes.
There's some that will, because it's a free market economy, and they can make money doing so, and I prefer that they don't do so. However, one of the things that we've said for a long time as a council is, when we have a lot of these homes, and we hope they would be owned by the people living in them, but when we have these, we don't have as many apartment complexes.
Yeah.
And we have apartment complex groups beating on our door wanting to build, and there will be apartment complexes coming, and there will be lodges coming in. But we've been able to stave that off for a significant period of time, because we've had a lot of these homes available for people to rent. I think that's probably, we're getting to the point where that's probably not something we're going to continue to do. We have been approached by multiple developers seeking out 4,000 square foot lots. That happens all over Oklahoma City, Edmond, everyone else. And we've not approved those. We've gone up and looked at the houses they build on those, and, you know, it's not something for Newcastle. And so we haven't done what a lot of communities have, and allowed those smaller homes. And so we don't intend to, as long as, I think, this council is around. And we're, you know, the 1,700 square foot, I think, is a good development, and I hope that they put much larger homes in there. We'll go from there. Thank you. Any other public comment concerning this agenda item? All right. Any other questions of council or planning? And I will say this will take some development of sewer to get an upgraded lift station more than likely. And that will be borne by the developer. So.
That brings, that is so our property is north of this.
Right.
So we're bringing it to there. So they'll just have to bring it down from basically that, from just north from the city property that we're developing, the fire station, all that. The feeds this will come from there.
Potentially, yes. And they're still wanting to put a manhole, I assume, on the northeast corner of their property, roughly. Our line will actually cross Highway 62. Just a little bit to the south of our lot, kind of at a diagonal. And I'm assuming they can connect on to our line, and take it on down to the south.
But a lift station, not just building a propane.
No, they will have to, more than likely, they'll have to do a lift station. They were told that they'll have to do a study to see what kind of capacity that lift station, and because this is all going to the Fox Hollow lift station. So they'll have to do a study to see what capacity that lift station has, what it will hold. Because we do not want this development kicking out our fire station and our future development on the property that we anticipate over the next few to several years. So, but immediately our fire station. So when we're going to start construction on our fire station long before this development begins. And if there's any requirements for an upgrade to that lift station, like the mayor said, it'll be on them to upgrade.
And there's also commercial out in front of Fox Hollow that we want to make sure has capacity to, the sales tax generator has the ability to feed in there, so, we're gonna make sure that this doesn't take away from any of that, and it will likely take enough rain to release the pump in that Fox Hollow lift station.
Main reason this went to a PUD is to allow that commercial right there. Is that the reason why main reason they went to a PUD was for that season?
Yes, and then also the facade, that way that they can write that in, that that's a requirement. If they just went straight RF1, they wouldn't have.
Developers want to control the building.
Right, well, we wouldn't, right, exactly.
Thank you.
Any other questions? I'll entertain a motion.
I make a motion to approve item, 6A.
Second.
Motion second for approval of item number 6A.
Mike Fullerton,
Yes.
Tommy Clay,
Yes.
Gene Reed,
Yes.
Marcy White, Carl Nell.
Yes. Item number 6B, discussion of possible action on adoption of emergency clause, ordinance number 913.
Make a motion to approve item 6B.
Second.
Motion second for approval of item number 6B.
Mike Fullerton,
Yes.
Tommy Clay,
Yes.
Gene Reed,
Yes.
Marcy White, Carl Nell.
Yes.
Thank
Thank you, sir.
Item number 6C, discussion of possible action on the planning commission recommendation to approve the preliminary plat of Brush Creek.
Motion to approve item 6.
Hold
Sorry. What? This is still- I thought it was
Trump
today.
Luke, what do you
I'm
know?
sorry.
You have seen this before.
Stimulation.
Luke Day, city engineer. This was up here in May of '21, but the street configuration changed where they access Southeast 16th there to the north. It's been through iterations with the applicant's engineer and has passed planning commission 4-0. It meets city requirements and we recommend approval. The applicant's here for any questions.
What's our average lot size on
on. Minimum of 6,000.
Yeah, the PUD, that was a PUD item and that was July of '20.
That's the one where they wanted 4,000 square foot lots. And a lot of that.
This is what, yeah, they came and wanted to make it.
Will council approve this plan before it's been, it had to be corrected?
Right, the access to the north
Right.
was problematic, so they had to relocate it.
Does our slopes we passed recently get affected by this one?
Yes, that's actually a final plan item, and that's coming right behind this, and yes, that's been addressed with that.
Okay. So I know it's a lot of ground variance out there.
It sure is. There's a lot of common area for that reason, 36 acres close to.
What was the street to the north? What street does that come out to? I can't.
16.
16.
There is pipeline that goes through, that's why that northwest corner of that strip runs to the middle of north.
Yeah.
What creek is that?
Brush Creek.
I think I'm up.
Been a long day, not dang it.
I didn't know there was a Brush Creek, so, you know.
Thank you, Marcy.
I didn't. didn't, and I can't see it on here, so thank you, Tom.
Tommy, I knew there was one.
I knew there was, no, it's because you're,
He knows it all. He's been here.
you're the voice of Newcastle.
Who knew? I didn't
And this is not just a little history. This was the first preliminary plat we did on this, that northwest corner was, gosh, probably 10 years ago. Long time ago.
Yeah.
But it was undeveloped, and things kind of slowed. And so that kind of set things in a long, long time ago.
What's your minimum house size?
Joel Harrison with Crafton Toll. On behalf of the applicant, as far as minimum house size, I'm not 100% sure, but the lots being 50-foot wide, I'd assume a front, a 40-foot and 65-foot back. So possibly 2,600 square foot, including the garage.
That's my creation.
Yeah, that's correct.
You're mentioning how far we can cross the road for this. We actually own this thing for quite a while as well. Our place is the big seminary, northeast.
Which is the old restaurant, right?
Right, the First Street Steakhouse.
I won't say I was down
There was a restaurant there too, Rush Creek. I remember when it was there, actually, that's the slide I actually lived there.
They're on 16th Street.
Well, that we finished.
Big barn. It's come a long way.
We basically already approved all this, this is just
That's just formality, really.
formality.
Redesign that street.
Yeah, and if I may, so another change in addition to what Luke said. So this originally, it was another engineering firm who did the previously approved preliminary plat. It was kind of encroaching a little too close to the floodplain, so we shifted this street to the west to avoid doing any disturbance to the floodplain. And the density, so from the previously approved to this one, the density went down. This is 414 lots, the previous was 432, and density went from previously 3.44 to 3.30 dwelling units per acre. But really, that's the only difference between the two.
And that's the great thing about this edition, smaller lots, but lots and lots of open space.
Yeah, I think it's 37 acres in total of the 125.
And the last creek running through there with some ponds.
Yeah, that's what it does.
That's
Got a good look.
how far back? About 15 years.
15 years.
I've been over it a few times.
Back and forth by Brush Creek.
It doesn't state that. It just states the 70%. 70% masonry requirement. No minimum lots, or no minimum square footage for the house.
Now I can. Make a motion for item 6C.
Second.
Motion second, approval of item 16.
Mike Fullerton,
Yes.
Tommy Clay,
Yes.
Gene Reed,
Yes.
Marcy White, Ron Hill.
Yes. Item number 7, discussion of pending experience by homeowners association representative regarding drainage certification and roof subdivision. NPWA? Okay.
Good evening. My name is Farah Coffey. I am the representative for the HOA tonight. I'm the HOA president for the Ridge neighborhood, and I'm here tonight with fellow board members Casey Hull and Tammy Cuvier, as well as some of our neighbors. And this is somewhat of a follow-up from the November 8th meeting where we were We have some things that we would like to clarify.
Can you say your last name again? I'm sorry, I didn't catch it.
Coffee, C-O-F-E-Y. It's F, like Frank, Farah, F-A-R-A.
Sorry.
So it's our understanding that there are some drainage ponds in our neighborhood. It's difficult to know exactly where they are because they aren't working, because the water's not going there. But we would like to know if said drainage ponds that are or are not there are in their current condition. Are they up to code? And are they capable of being used in the way that they are intended to be used once the drainage problems are corrected?
I'll defer to that.
City engineer, Luke, you have any comments on that question?
Luke Day, city engineer. The drainage basins are actually a responsibility of the homeowners association. The method of getting the stormwater flow to them, that would be within city right of way. And that's the project that we're looking to get into.
And I believe her question was, are those drainage basins adequate? If the drainage was all corrected, that the city's looking to do, are those adequate and are they up to where they need to be engineering wise, or do they need to be repaired?
There's some maintenance that would need to be involved with that. A lot of it would be vegetation, and then there's a lot of erosion out there that's gone on over the years. So that would have to be, re-excavated and graded back to its design volume.
And that would be the responsibility of the homeowners association because those are common areas.
That's right. The basins of homeowners association, the right of way is city.
Okay.
So we certainly understand that we would be responsible for maintaining them, but we feel like because let me move down a little bit. Because the developer had a bond and that bond was allowed to expire prior to his work being completed, we do not feel that we should be responsible for that. We do understand maintenance, absolutely. But he didn't finish his work, and I don't see how that falls on us to finish his work. We don't own property as an HOA. We don't own anything. So I don't know how we would be responsible for that.
Jeff, can I just ask you, the bond that was in place, that was for the benefit of the city, not for the benefit of the common areas of the homeowners association, is that correct?
That's correct.
Yeah. So the bond would not come into play here because the bond was to the city for improvements that are the city's responsibility.
I feel like building the entire development was his responsibility. We don't, as a neighborhood, have money to excavate a pond. But where would you expect us to come up with that when this is not a problem that we made? Someone left it for us.
May I just say, the detention basins, the two ponds on the very east side were never dedicated in that final plat. So they weren't ever dedicated to the city. They were dedicated to the HOA. So that's why they were never maintained by the city. Even at that time, they would never be maintained by the city because they were dedicated to the HOA.
They never needed to be maintained by the city prior to now, because this is phase 2. Phase 1, it doesn't have that. This is phase 2. This is brand new. So this is not something that at one point was being maintained by someone and now isn't. It was never maintained by anyone because it didn't need to be.
Personally, from my perspective, even though it is HOA with the city, to be able to, when we look at the engineering to correct all the drainage problems, will we be able to, as a good faith gesture, correct those drainage basins as a part of that, even though it is not in the city's purview?
To the extent those drainage basins function within the overall drainage system of the city, you would have some latitude to spend city funds.
Okay. And so I would personally be in favor of doing that because we need a final solution to the issues in the ridge. And we all are in agreement with that on this council. And if that can be incorporated, and that may take some engineering work as well, I would anticipate it would. I would not be against doing that to try to ensure that everything was done appropriately to not have issues anymore. I know there's a lot of issues with the builders. I know there was a lot of ditches that were built that they were allowed to fill up during development. And we're gonna go back and we'll correct all of that. But that's something that we, as a city, probably weren't on top of as we should have been. Because sometimes we accept those improvements and the drainage systems, and then the builders come in and they flatten those ditches out, and they do things in their grading that now there's no longer a ditch there, and there's no longer a functioning drainage structure. And so we ran into that a lot over town. That's one of the things we're not going to allow happen anymore, because those developers in a lot of instances have run with a functioning. I'm not saying this one, but they've run some functioning drainage.
You can say this one.
So.
Well, as a neighborhood, I can assure you that we would be appreciative of that gift if the city would do that. Next, when we were here on the 8th, we understood, this was November 8th, that the city was going to take over the drainage issues on both phases of the neighborhood, that bids were going to be accepted, and an award was going to be issued around April timeframe. So we're here to find out, was there a call for bids?
There was not,
So no call for bids at all.
not yet.
So no award, obviously. When do you anticipate the call for bids?
Right now, we are soliciting SOQ, statement of qualifications, from different engineering firms that can take on this project to give us an engineering design and plan. Once that happens, then that plan can actually be sent out for bids. I don't expect it would take them very long to do a design plan for us on this. But, I spoke with somebody on the phone last week about this too, I think. But please keep in mind, what we are designing and engineering is only city property. So issues that are occurring, any kind of issues that are occurring on private property, the city will not get into, other than the drainage basins is what we'll include as well.
And we do understand that.
Okay.
I think once the drainage issues are taken care of, the erosion issues will then take care of themselves, hopefully over time.
That is, and that's possible, but I don't want to sit here and say that we're gonna come out there and correct all the problems. We're gonna do our very best to get a design engineered plan to correct as much as possible. Okay.
Okay, so does that mean, in a way, that people are not gonna be calling out companies to dry out their carpets every time it rains, or?
To the extent that city easements and drainage will stop that, yes.
Okay. We've seen several, I'm sorry, my mouth is very dry, several maps and plans and plats, and I don't know the correct verbiage for that. And they're, each is somewhat different than the other. Where might we get the most recent set of plans? Thank you.
It's on us.
Will there be new plans at some point with the new drainage?
There will, yes.
That's what the engineering firm will do. They will look at what we've got there, look at what we can do within the city right away, and develop an engineered plan on the best solution.
Where can we get a copy of that?
Which it hasn't been developed.
Right, once it has it.
The city will have a copy of it once it's developed.
And we just come up and ask for it.
Will it come through council too?
Yes, it will
Yeah.
come to council, but you'll need to just contact the city clerk and request information.
Okay. Will it be on an agenda at some point?
It will,
Okay.
yes.
So we can just watch for that?
Sure.
Okay. So we know that you guys have heard from a lot of the residents from the Ridge. We believe that homeowners are worried that this project is gonna fall between the cracks, and we're simply looking for communication from the city. The HOA is here tonight offering to bridge the communication from the city to our neighborhood. We would be happy to be your contact, to get information to us, to let us know what's going on, and then we can get that information out to our residents to let them know what's going on. So maybe cut down on the phone calls, I'm not sure. But you're welcome to have our email address, our phone number, anything that you might need to be able to contact us so we can get that information out to our neighbors. And then the last thing I want to say before I finish, I would like you to keep in mind when feeling frustrated about these phone calls, about the drainage problems, this isn't just a problem when it rains. This is a problem that impacts the everyday life of the people living in these homes. People want to build a shop or improve their home in some way. They can't because their yards are being eroded. Same with putting up a fence so they can let their dogs out or allow their children to play. Same for those trying to sod their yard or even mow it for that matter. Some of the ruts in yards are so deep it's dangerous. The erosion is so bad, water pipes are showing. Imagine living in a home and wanting to enjoy a family cookout, but you can't invite people over because you have no fence to keep small children from wandering off, and you worry someone's going to step in a rut up to their knee and get hurt. So imagine buying a house, planning to put up a fence for your precious pet, only to find out you can't because it will get pushed down the next time it rains. Now your pet is stuck inside and can only go out on a leash. So this is more than just a rainy day problem. This is problems that people are having in their everyday life. It's actually changed their everyday life. They can't do some of the things that we all take for granted. So I know it's frustrating for you, and we appreciate the time that you've taken to listen to us. But just please keep in mind that there are people behind these homes. So we appreciate your time. We have gone to quite a bit of trouble to put together something for you. We did not get permission ahead of time to hand these out to you, but we would like very much to, if you don't mind.
Yeah, go ahead.
I will say, we've all driven through there. We're hyper aware of what is very visible, and I'm no engineer, so we can't really say a lot, but we can say we've driven through there and we see it. And we're homeowners, so I'm good at putting myself in other people's shoes. Thank you. So you're not forgotten.
We've got a plan, we've got a process, we're moving forward with that process. And we'll get as good a resolution as we possibly can.
We do appreciate that. I hope that you will appreciate that, when we go back and tell our neighbors, it's not done yet, they don't have an award, we don't have a date. It's gonna be frustrating for them. So, like I said, if you would like to reach out to us and we can get the information out, we're happy to do that. And our contact information is on the booklets that are being handed out.
Well, I can tell you that as Marcia said, this is heavy on all our hearts. I will tell you that not only this, but this and a few other things, our planning department has been redone over the past, I would say, 3 years. And we're so far away from where we were back then because with the growth, everything we're doing, that has been, we've got to start catching things, we've got to build it up on. So unfortunately, you guys are impacted because it didn't get done the right way, but a lot of it had to do with the developer. But
yes,
our
and we very much
oversight,
know
our
that.
oversight should have been a heck of a lot better. So this is changing the way other people are going to be impacted to the city of Newcastle. Unfortunately, you guys are have to be the point of that, but it is absolutely changing the way we are doing stuff. And like I said, I'm very much agree with Mayor is whatever we can do to help, we can.
Well, we appreciate just knowing that it is something that is, heavy on your hearts as well. It really means a lot to us.
Yes.
It is, and primarily because of this development and a couple of others, we're no longer allowing open ditches in our half-acre development. We're going all curb and gutter because it's easier to control the flow and the drainage in the curb and gutter streets. That makes some of our developers not very happy, but, we don't want to have to clean up messes, and not everyone's a mess, mind you, but, we think it makes a lot better situation for the people who live there and for the city long term.
Thank you, I appreciate your time.
Thank you very much.
Let me add something onto this too. This is all gonna happen, we've got the engineering process, it's gonna take some time. It's also gonna take the time to get it back out to bid. So there's a bidding process that has to go on, and awarding of that. So it's not something that can be done like overnight, just to kind of, everyone, it could take a little bit of time. I mean, I realize it's affecting y'all, and like everyone has already spoke, it's very hard on y'all. And I promise you, the city is working as fast as it can through the legal means of doing it.
I appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Did anybody else want to speak?
I just have a question.
Please approach the podium and I'll make sure we get everybody's name and address reported when we speak.
My name is Kim Plummer. I know you said it's not going to change overnight. What are we looking at? Are we looking at months? Are we looking at years?
I'm not looking at years, I guarantee you that.
I mean, you've kind of left it wide open,
Right.
so.
And I'm sorry about that.
You
but-
know, I've been in my house, it'll be 2 years in September, and I was one of these that had plans for my property, and it's literally been put on hold. I came in a few months ago to try and get a variance that got approved, but I still haven't got the form. But I've put all that on hold because water's coming up through my electrical pipes because there's so much water. So I'm just kind of concerned, are we talking
It's
couple
not years.
months, couple
I hope it's
months,
not
you know, end of summer?
Kevin, do you have an idea on RFQ, on request for, not RFQ, request for,
Well, SOQs will come in fairly quickly, but, I mean, selection of an engineer, which will have to come to council, and then them giving an actual proposal of what that may cost, and then the actual design and engineering, it's gonna take time. I mean, we'll.
6 to 9 months.
6 to 9 months.
Kevin, I'd ask if you do require us that you initiate a special meeting.
Absolutely,
That
absolutely.
way we can expedite it as much as
Right.
possible. I just want to hear some sort of a timeline, 6 to 9 months is probably what we're looking at.
There aren't any emergency things that can be enacted because it's such an active
Well, you
problem.
can't, I mean, you could enact some sort of emergency if you wanted to, but it doesn't change the fact that it may take that long to design it.
Well, I
That's the
mean, I'm just
problem.
wondering if it cut out any time because at all in the process, I mean, I can't imagine last week's spring.
And we still have to, I mean, as much as the value of the cost of doing it, we still got to put it out to bid.
There's just timelines that go in place for all that.
Yeah, so hopefully 6 to 9 months. And we'll know more as time goes on. We'll try to make sure we communicate with Kevin and we'll make sure that you guys are aware of the timeline as well. Thank you very much. Item number 8, discussion regarding the Spitfire oil and gas well near the intersection of State Highway 130 in Rockwell and process for removal of shipping containers from the well site, Jody and Andrea Scott.
Okay. Sneak back that way. Okay, my name is Andrea Scott. I live at 704 North Rockwell, and this is my husband, Dennis. Oh, she's on my own.
She's on the other, she's on the opposite.
So let me preface this with, this is not my area of expertise. I don't have the energy nor the time to educate myself on all of this, but I'm gonna give my opinion of this issue and then you can decide what you wanna do. So I've attached a use fund review permit along with the provisions and conditions that were signed
by the city of Newcastle and EOG for you to review. And then I'm going to touch base on several of those provisions that were not met by EOG. So, page 2, provision 1, stating the truck route that was originally in place. This truck route said that they'll use Highway 76 east on Highway 130, that they were not to go east on Highway 130, that they had to approach the well site directly off of 76 and come into 130 that way. This provision was put in place to protect our citizen drivers. And on multiple occasions, we would I would make contact with the truck drivers that I saw not following these provisions. And my husband would as well stop them. They were not aware of these provisions. And upon continued violations, we contacted Newcastle Police Department and the City of Newcastle and asked them to notify and monitor this issue. They stated they had no jurisdiction because it was located on a state highway. So because we are growing as a city, and probably because drilling is going to become very popular again soon, I think we need to place some additional provisions within our guidelines in doing so, and make these provisions and conditions and educate those or indicate who has jurisdiction to uphold the stated provisions and cite violators. We couldn't get any action from the city or the police department. My second issue is provision 11 on page 2. After completion of the well, a 16-foot permanent fence around the well site with sound decibels checked after erection of the 16-foot fence. At this time, 3.5 years later, there's no permanent fence. The permit expired, I believe, within 90 to 120 days after it was given. So we're about 3 years out now. No permanent fence has been erected, and the temporary shipping containers that are beautiful remain in place, and this has been 3 years. This provision states a permanent fence around the entire well site, so when fencing is complete, it must surround the well site and meet sound provisions. I'm concerned that they have a partial fence up right now on one side that they put whenever they finish the well, and I'm concerned that they're going to consider that the sound barrier, but it's not completely surrounding the unit. Within Newcastle's provisions, I would request that they update the provisions to include a strict timeline as to when the temporary fencing is removed and a permanent fencing is placed. Also provide sanctions that need to be outlined if these requirements are not met, along with deciding which department or personnel will ensure the provisions within compliance. The city also needs to purchase their own sound decimal machine if they do not have one, and ensure wells are staying within compliance in all phases of production. Also deciding on sections who is responsible for placing sanctions if compliance is not met. So for months and months, we would be woken up every single night, and we are about a quarter mile, maybe a little bit less, from the site. Not only from noise, but our house shaking when they were fracking. Whenever they were fracking, we had a water line bust. Our neighbors had a water line bust. No one was responsible for that. We were. I would also request that homeowners damage while they are fracking and doing other things like that, that someone is held responsible at some point in the future provisions for the safety and the comfort of everyone. Also, at the entrance of Rockwell, a sign was placed. I'm not sure if it was placed by the city or EOG, stating that there was no oil field traffic permitted to drive on North Rockwell. Once again, Newcastle Police Department was notified of violators and unwilling to take any action. So therefore, again, let's indicate who can cite the violators and who's responsible for keeping them within compliance. So anything in yellow is actionable. So those are things to review when you have your meetings or whenever you're wanting to hopefully update some provisions. I'd also like a timeline too as to when the shipping containers will be removed and a permanent well up. I know Kevin's very familiar with me. We're friends now. So, and he's very familiar with my husband because he was against the well in the first place. He's worked in the oil field. He's very familiar with how things go, and that's kind of how things go. They've run roughshod. So that's it. I think you have anything else to say? Do you have any feedback as to when that might be taking place?
Well, they're actually moving containers.
Will they do this regularly?
No, they began moving containers on Friday, and they have lined them up. What they're waiting on is trucks to come in and haul those containers away. I spoke with Jason on Thursday. He told me they were coming out to start unstacking those containers on Friday, and they did. So, you know, they're doing what they said that they're gonna do. Yes, it has taken more time than what it should have, because I have contacted Jason multiple times about those containers, and was I being fed a line? Potentially. I don't know. And then the last time I talked to him before this was 2 or 3 weeks ago, and he said that they anticipated drilling and had a meeting in Oklahoma City. I don't know if that took place or not, but then I talked to him 2 weeks ago, and he said, I'm trying to get people out there to get those containers going and build a wall. And then he called me Thursday, like I said last week, and said they would be out there unstacking those containers on Friday of last week, which they did. He's waiting on one quote from a company to build a permanent wall. So I'm going off of what he has said, and that's where we're at.
Okay. And I had requested a demand letter sent by our city attorney, you know, within probably 6 months ago to see if we could get this expedited. Did you have to do that, or you just contacted Jason again?
A demand letter?
Well, like a demand letter to EOG, like stick to your contract.
You're in contract. The contract was up to a year ago. They had 2 years to complete the well. Contract the city and the EOG had done, is done. But then why are we still here a year later? Nothing's been done in the year. I understand that they can drill another well, but they need to put another permit in to drill that well. They can't come in there without coming in front of y'all and saying, let's drill. We want to drill another well. They have 2 years to drill. Their 2-year timeline's up. So why did it take another year? I've talked to you about this before, and you told me that you were going to talk to Jason. I've called Jason, talked to Jason. We're getting bids. This was 8 months ago. You said they was going to come out and replace or take them down and move them. They took one layer off, and they stopped. So this
When
time,
they removed the entire east side out on Rockwell, back on the pad now, and they're lined up ready for trucks.
right, 8 months ago, whenever I talked to you and you talked to Jason about it, they took the top layer off of that.
And then stop.
So now they're taking that layer, and they may stop, they may not. We don't know. But nothing else has been done in 4 or 5 days. And they said that they was getting bids 8 months ago on trucks. It don't take that long to get trucks in there now. I mean, I can get a truck to haul them wherever you want me to get them hauled.
You know, with the way things are going, with all the trucks and needing this and needing that, I have no idea what their operations looks like. I don't have a clue. All I have is what I have from Jason Boykin that says he's doing this and that. So I have no idea if they're able to get trucks, how long it takes trucks to get here. I have no idea where they're hauling containers, when they're gonna move the rest of the containers on the south side. Their quotes they're getting for the wall that they're supposed to be building. I mean, that's in their.
Right, but what are you doing as a city to make sure that they are within compliance of their signed agreement?
How long do they have to do this? I mean, like the contract, the permit says, and after this, you have to put up a wall. The permit's good for 2 years. It's been 3 years. How long do they have to move that? How long do they have to be in compliance with the contract with y'all?
Well, and I think you're confusing, and anybody correct me if I'm wrong here, but I think you're confusing permitting for drilling with UPOR, because the UPOR for that site never expires, if I'm correct. That is correct.
They had 2 years to drill that well.
Okay.
Every meeting, they had 2 years to drill that well.
But the UPOR, which is the zoning, the use for that piece of land, never expires.
I understand that.
Okay,
so they don't have to come and put the wall in at all.
All right?
What is the contract, I mean, where is the timeline that they have? You said that contract never expires, I understand that. But the wall, when does it, how long do they have to put that up?
reading through the UPOR, it said that after drilling was complete.
Which is complete, because the permit's expired.
Yes, but they are also eligible or can put 3 more wells on that site. That's kind of a piece to where potentially I'm confused with that, because that's what Jason alluded to way back when, is that well, if we drill another well, which we can drill 3 more, and we remove those containers, you're not gonna have the soundproofing that you have now.
Well, they're required to, if they get another permit, then they'll have another UPOR, correct? With hopefully stricter
No, they will
mandates.
not. The UPR will remain the same. They'll just have to get a drilling permit for another well.
Okay, so can the city update their, I don't know. What's it called? Keep my
We
brain.
haven't, when is the 16-foot wall gonna be put up? It can't be an unknown time. There has to be a set time when they have to have this stuff done. Why even put it in the drilling permit if you have no say on the timeline that's gonna be done?
I'll let council speak. Council approve the UPR.
I think it's a question of the hour, and it's another one of those lessons learned. We said in here 3 years ago, supporting the drilling business, supporting the industry, and people stood at that same podium and promised us, essentially it was trust me, trust us, we'll take good care of you. And people in the audience said, you can't trust that. And so we put together, and we had to update our ordinances then, and we did a fairly good job, but how good is an ordinance if you can't uphold it? And so I think that's a fair question. And by the way, that 16-foot wall could be an atrocity. So I think we need, I mean, it could be. Hopefully it won't. I'm trying to be optimistic, but I don't trust them that it will be. So I think we've got to revisit our ordinances, and why have provisions in there that they can just walk all over us? Now, if we're not allowed to have that provision, don't put it in the ordinance. But we all felt like we could have these provisions in there, and I'm embarrassed. I'm embarrassed because I find that, you know, I supported it. And now we seem to have no, you know, as soon as possible. And I know that's all you're gonna get from them, and that ain't good enough. There's gonna be, if there's no pain for them, they're not gonna do it, because they're gonna save the bucks.
My question with that is what teeth do we have? I mean, I'm all about it, but every time I've broached this subject in the past, is that we are very hamstrung because
Of our legislature.
Because of our legislature, because we basically have given mineral rights in the state much more than surface rights.
Yeah, so we didn't restrict those.
No, but the ability for them to get it, the ability for them to go do it, it's very hard for us to restrict that way. And I'm all about finding ways. I've preached hard about sound ordinances and about, I love to have 24/7 stuff like that, all that kind of stuff, but I'm being told that we don't really have the ability to take it that far.
Well,
And
I was avoiding the use of the word restrict, because I wasn't restricting. I was going to the permit, which they agreed to. The terms that they agreed to are here, and if we find out that we have no ability to moderate, to uphold it, then I said we change our ordinances to just open it up. There's nothing. So, I mean.
Well, and unfortunately, we've got another issue too. When this well was committed, it was the first one that came to our community. They applied when we had our old ordinances in place.
Mm-hmm.
And with the old setbacks and the old very minimal requirements for the vertical wells that we'd seen all throughout the life of the oil field. This was the first true horizontal well that had ever been drilled in our community. So once this came in, we updated our ordinances. We updated them significantly. But like Kevin said, based on what we've been told by our city attorney, our old city attorney, this is a zoning, and this well site will forever fall under the ordinances in place when it was approved.
So these provisions And conditions are void or?
No, no.
So,
But they agreed to that, so yes, we should be able to force them to do everything they agreed to in
bingo.
this.
But how do we do it?
So to that should be the pain, here's the cost of noncompliance. And we haven't done that, and I guess what I'm saying is, I can't undo that, but lesson learned is we're gonna have to think about how we enter these things in the future. We're gonna stay within state, our state law, but we've gotta do that, we're not gonna do things level dumb, but it's kind of level dumb that we allow ourselves to just say, there's just no cost to not doing it.
Well, I think we even had instances where we felt, and I can't remember specifically, but there was, where we sent an inspector or somebody out to the well site, and basically got told, get out of here, you don't have any right to be here. I'm trying to remember which well site that was on.
Oh,
but
Well, Jody got
basically
told that a couple of times.
Well, no, I mean, it was basically.
More than once.
Yes, we had ordinances and stuff there, and then we get told that, nope, you don't. It's corporation commission, so we can write in this all we want, but then we get, when it comes down to trying to enforce, we get told we're not allowed to be on the site, we can't enforce what's going on, and we move on. I'm up in arms about what we have the ability
Well,
to
it'd be harder
moderate.
to get them to go out with us then. Get the corporation commission, the regional, they have people
Well, you
sign
be in
it.
charge of that.
I know people there, but I'm just saying, like, then we want you to go with us, because they're saying we don't have a right, we believe we do, but we know you can tell them what we have a right to do and what you have a right to do. Together.
We leave ourselves open if we don't specify the
And it's so great because the city of Tuttle, and we meet with them regularly, and Blanchard, and Goldsby, to discuss things like this. We were trying to develop an oil and gas regulation together. Tuttle said, we're gonna go further, we're gonna do all these things even though we know we can't. We're gonna go ahead and do them.
Right.
And the oil companies will do them because they don't want the bad publicity, they don't wanna do these things. Well, now, the city of Tuttle has been sued by Citizen Energy for literally hundreds of thousands of dollars, maybe even in excess of $1 million,
Right.
because they overstepped their bounds.
It
And
works
so,
until you get sued.
yeah, it works, so, we've got this yin and yang of, we can ask a lot from the oil companies that really they don't have to do, because Oklahoma law is so favorable towards them, and they'll do a lot of it, but you push too far, and then the cooperation's over, and they're gonna do the bare minimum, and they're also going to see you in court.
And sitting in the legislature.
And go back to the legislature, more than likely win whatever they want.
Well, then that's how we revise our ordinances, because our ordinances, you're saying there's no reason to put this in as a provision or condition.
Well, if they agree to it.
And
And they did.
They did. but
They
there's no
did.
time.
we had conversation, I had a conversation with the Corporation Commission, and they said, no, that's in the Department of Health. Well, I had a conversation with the Department of Health, and they said, no, that's in the Corporation Commission. I'm like, can one of y'all make up your mind?
And I'll almost concede, Jody, in my limited wisdom, the most remarkable difficulty is the noise. I don't know that we'll ever win that one. But these things that are visible, silt fencing, yes or no? Are you required to put silt fencing in? If you don't, there's got to be a little bit of, you got to do something.
There's another thing, the silt fencing. If you go out there to the wells over here off of 130 and 16th Street, they put the silt fencing up. It's all down.
Right.
But the poles are still everywhere around there.
Has the grass grown back, or has the grass?
Somewhat.
Yeah, and
Weeds.
cottonwoods and
Cottonwoods.
weeds.
Well, something's at least on the dirt.
Seeds.
I'm not as frustrated as you with this, Gene.
I agree
I
it's
don't
a
know what
sticky
to do.
wicket, but I think our ordinances ought to either concede that or be strong enough that someone, Jason finally come in, because this is on the agenda, and we pressed him, I'm taking him, and he finally come in, and all of a sudden, I drove down Rockwell, hey, they're gone. And that should have happened a year ago.
Yeah.
And now, I'm a little afraid about the 16-foot fence, because
I mean, they come and take half of the wall, half of the containers down. Why not, if you're gonna take half, why not take all? They gotta bring them back in before they can drill again anyways. Why take them on?
I'd rather them put in a better sound.
No,
wall.
they're gonna put the fence up, I think,
In
before they
lieu of-
drill again.
I mean, so they're gonna put the fence up now.
Well, it's,
for a
it's
year and a
it's
half.
supposedly, yeah, so supposedly it's the sound, it's the sound barrier versus the,
Which is, the sound now is not a huge issue for us personally. It was while they were drilling and the fracking that was like an earthquake every night, all night long. So, I mean, that was very disturbing. And the fact that we had busted pipes for us and our neighbors are, I think theirs was under their foundation, so that's
From
an
the
issue.
fracking?
Yes. Yeah, it was within a day of each other, both of our pipes. Yeah, so it was a fracking issue for sure. There was no weather-related issues.
That's your Oklahoma Corporation Commission, unfortunately, on that part.
Well, we will continue to follow up and, you know,
So,
on the fence, I hope they are true to their word and they get it done very quickly.
Do we have the ability, since we're well beyond this, to say, this is the date we expect this done?
You can't take no action tonight, it's discussion only. So,
I'm asking in discussion, do we have the ability at a later date?
Now, if somebody
To
does
give them, I'm saying, do we have the ability to say, well, I mean, to me, it's not, if they've already agreed upon, they're already well beyond their agreement. I'm just saying, as a city, do we not have that ability to say, you have so many days to do this, to get done, because you're well beyond what you agreed on. You're not following through your word of what's going on. Do we not have the ability to say, you have this long, this many days to get this done? And if you don't, what teeth do we have?
well, that's my question too.
Yeah, what's our remedy, Jeff? If we have any applicant that's got use of permitted on review permit, what's our remedy if they don't adhere to the provisions?
Well, I think you can give them notice of the violation, and then if they don't correct it, then I think you can proceed to prosecute.
And is it like all other prosecutions, is the maximum fine $275?
That's one approach. Another approach would be to go to district court and ask for an injunction. That kind of steps up the level of confrontation.
And
I think what you're saying is absolutely true. I mean, Norman went through this quite a bit with oil and gas companies. And we had actually had some pretty good progress with getting them to agree to reasonable regulations until the state legislature stepped in and basically preempted cities from having much teeth at all or anything related to oil and gas.
What year was that?
Sorry.
What year was that legislation? Has it been recent?
No, it's probably been a couple of years ago or so.
Yeah.
For a couple of years before I retired. Yeah, and so we had a couple of cases that we litigated, and I think one of them finally worked its way through the Oklahoma Supreme Court, and the city of Norman lost. And it was something, the issue had to do with requiring a level of insurance that was sufficient to cover a potential loss from operation. And so it was something that,
Simple.
if
Should be.
anything, it should have been a win.
Should have been.
But even in
reality
the
of
court
it
of
is-
public opinion, they've got to have a little bit of pain with that. We have to go on record and express our disappointment that they are failing to do that, even if it's just that.
Mark? Can you place sanctions if guidelines and provisions are met or not?
No.
I mean, are we able
So
to
there is
pull
some
a
language,
UDR?
there's some language in the ordinance, I was just looking a second ago, we need to do a little bit more research on it, but the language does seem to say that you can issue a cease and desist order. And, and then you're back to enforcement. It's not gonna happen in municipal court, but it's going to happen in district court. And you're referencing the title litigation. The oil and gas companies, the cities are not gonna be able to bully them. You have to figure out how to get them to see the benefit of being a good citizen.
Bingo.
If you're gonna get any kind of,
Bad press.
any kind of progress towards remedying these things. Otherwise, they're just gonna see you forward around each other's head. And the way the laws are in Oklahoma, you're absolutely right. They've always given the edge on mineral owners over surface right owners, but it's gotten worse.
And like Tommy said, every time we challenge, or somebody challenges them, they go to the legislature, and they just take away more of the rights of cities. And so, we tried to be as good as possible, working with them and pushing as far as we could, and getting them to agree and those type of things, and, it's pretty tough when they know they don't have to do a lot.
I think what you've seen is they realize they don't have to really agree, and so they're less likely to be cooperative with the cities. So it's really, it's a tightrope walk, but try to walk.
And we, Kevin and I have had lots of, meetings with oil companies, big oil companies, and we've been reminded they've got a whole floor full of lawyers back in Houston or wherever. And, you know, they pretty much told us, if you push us just a little bit too far, then we're out of it, the people we're talking to are out of it, the local people are out of it, and it's going to be handled out of Houston. And they will have no say. And so they pretty much, they've given us fair warning that, you know, this is about as much as you're going to get. And anything that you push above that will take us completely out of the equation. Us being the people like Jason and others that we deal with.
A little closer to the problem.
Yes.
Right.
They really care. I mean, they have to see us and talk to us.
We sure went to a lot of trouble to get these accepted. So, I mean, we worked hard to get them, and they agreed to these. So,
I really think Jason's moving now. I think one of the reasons probably that they are moving is that I think they're gonna come back and drill another well, which is not gonna be great for you guys. But once again, there's not a thing we can do to stop them, other than hopefully.
Tighten our ordinances.
Not what
Tighten our ordinances.
But that's
For
what
whatever
we're saying,
reason.
we go too far, we end up in court, and millions, I mean, that's the tightrope that, trust me, I'm extremely frustrated with it. Cause I don't.
Tommy's trying to think every way to Sunday to get the sound ordinance stuff. He's tried
I
so many
desperately
things.
want a 24/7 monitoring of sound. It's done in other states, it's just not done in Oklahoma. I don't think it's a impossible ask. That way it's, because right now, if you make a complaint, and they come out, they bring sound stuff, test it, of course.
They know they're coming.
That's why they're wirelining, right?
So
Yeah,
it's
when
just.
it's not loud.
Yeah, that's why,
Yeah.
so it's just.
He's put a lot of research into it, I'll tell you, a
And
lot.
but it's, as Carl says, yeah, now we can go that route,
And
then they won't do anything.
I drove around some other communities that were having it done, and I even found where they built sound walls for
Yeah,
one house,
yeah. our
out in the middle of
center.
the country.
They offered that to us, because I caused enough stuff that they said they'd put a sound wall around my house.
Around your house.
And you really didn't want to sound.
On your
You want a picture of it?
I mean, they had
That'd be
bigger
pretty.
containers around my house, 5 acres.
Well, I mean, they built a true sound wall, not the container wall.
On
They
the,
built
on
a
that
true
oil
sound wall.
property?
And I think that's stuff we can do. I think we can limit, I would maybe get off here, but I think we could limit allowing metal containers as soundproof measures. I think we can require.
I think it's worth the fight to do that.
Require actual sound.
doesn't sound like to me we can require.
Well, I think that goes in the,
We need to.
when we're approving the UPOR.
Oh.
No, I know, but I'm saying,
What am I
this is on the,
missing?
so we're on the front end. When they're requiring this stuff on the front end before they go, I think we can get stuff done. No, because what we're talking about here is what they did after they left. They have not had to do anything because they're not trying to make any money off of it. They're just non-existent, not responding. They haven't, when they're trying to get in there to actually drill,
Yes,
when now time is of essence, they're willing to agree and make sure they do stuff.
yes.
And I think on the front end, we can get stuff done. Meaning, not saying on everything, I'm saying what's required before they drill.
Which is what this
But-
permit is.
But we're talking about not allowing metal buildings, metal containers at sound walls, saying that before you could drill, you have to
Oh,
build
that's right.
a
So-
sound.
So you're right, and that's the, one thing we discovered, how do you anticipate what they might do? Because if you put 93 no's on there, you're in trouble too. So if you say, you can't do this, can't do that, so.
And the oil company's response was, we are required to control sound. You don't have the right to tell us how we control that sound.
No, they get the pit.
As long as they control the sound, which is under the purview of the health department, by the way.
But not what the earth department says.
Yeah, depending, until you go to the health department, they say, no, it's not, but,
I would think our zoning could.
I'll be honest with you, the shipping containers used for sound mitigation, at first it sounded atrocious, but it was fairly effective, and it was something they could have put up and taken down. So the fact, I was surprised they were there, I was concerned about the wind and stuff, but they secured them. So, and this is just one voice speaking, that the fact that they use a shipping container, like down on 24th Street, put them up, take them down.
Well, the problem I have with those is it's a deflection of noise, not an
Absorption.
absorption
Yes.
and diffusion of noise. It's
Oh,
deflection. So
yes.
it might deflect from that right there, but then you amplify it and when it over here.
Well,
It
that's
might go
exactly
two-
what
It
happened
might
here,
go
'cause
2
yes,
miles down the
They
road
left
instead of
one
right
end
here.
open and
Yes,
it
they
went
left
right
the one
to
end
stop
open,
sign.
so
So
all
that's
the
my
sound
problem.
would bounce off and come right to our house.
And there's different types of noises, there's different types of frequencies of what goes through what, and it has to be treated differently, and that's a whole science that none of us know anything about. But there are ways that we can, that I think we can mitigate, that we can require on the front end, some better fencing and stuff. I really do. I believe that's worthy fight.
and we are going to readdress our ordinances and see what we can do, probably in the fall this year. We're gonna try to see what other communities have, I don't say gotten away with, but how far they've been able to go with theirs and not get sued. And try to do everything we can and see where we can get with that. And so it's not falling on deaf ears. Unfortunately, you know, what we keep hearing is your site was under our very primitive old, so it may not help you as much as we would hope, but hopefully if an EOG comes back or any other oil company and they're dealing with lots of sites around the city, yours included, they'll be consistent, hopefully, and follow the rules on that site that they have to follow on the sites that were after we amended the ordinances. So that's what we hope, but, you know, we can beat this around a whole lot tonight and not get anywhere, but we are going to redress that, and I would encourage you guys to come back when we're doing that and discuss that with us at that point in time. But it's probably gonna be in September-ish when we do that.
Okay.
All right, thank you guys.
Thank
All right, item number 9, discussion only regarding driveway permit processing. Now, I think this came to light whenever there was, once again, a social media post regarding having to go out and hire an engineer and spend a small fortune to have them tell them what size tin they were gonna put in. Okay, well, that's the way it was portrayed on social media, but here we'll hear the city's version.
Luke has been dealing with this issue out there on 16th Street, Southeast 16th.
Southeast,
Yeah, and after speaking with him about this and seeing what he was talking about, yeah, it probably needs to be engineered. So, Luke, take it away.
Luke Day, city engineer. I was asked to give kind of an overview of our permit processing for driveways and culverts. So there's kind of two. So when we receive these that are not on ODOT, we go and look, and oftentimes there's indicators that, you know, if there's an 18-inch upstream and 18-inch downstream, no flooding complaints, then the city's 18-inch minimum, you know, we just move forward with that.
And they're down, there's no engineering required either?
No, yeah, we just move forward, simple. Some, like this one, and then the week prior, another one on Highway 9, they're in a lot larger channel. So that's an indication that it's larger than an 18. This one in particular is on a section line road, so undersizing this culvert would cause runoff to back up and flood the section line road, which is a major safety. Another layer to this one is actually located in a FEMA floodplain, which brings its own requirements with it too, and ultimately the city's responsible when a mistake is made in there, obstruction.
Like, you mean, they put a smaller one in and we allow it?
That or fill in a floodplain, yeah.
Even if we don't necessarily know about it, they just do it, we're still responsible.
Really?
Yeah, there's a certain level of monitoring that we're required to do, and especially one that a permit's submitted. I mean, we definitely are well aware of the proposed work. Can you go to the next slide, please?
So just don't follow permit. I'm joking.
This is the site right here on the left side, and then there's a picture on the right. It's a larger channel that requires more than an 18-inch, so we require it to be sized.
And when we say require, are we requiring them to do an engineer and size that, and then you write off on the same engineer's signature?
We review and approve is the city's task here. So can you go back one more? So here's the ordinances that we follow. The 154-093-B4, that requires a permit to meet city specifications. City specifications is 153-089-F18, and that requires an engineer to size the culvert for a 100-year event.
Just doesn't say who the engineer's got to do that.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm just trying to figure out why we need two engineers to sign off on it, basically. Because we got the landowner's engineer signing off on it, then we have you signing off on it.
The city, and interrupt me, Mr. Self, but
Go ahead.
on private drives, the city is not, we won't size that culvert. That's on the private homeowner to size that.
But we're signing off on that they can put it in.
We do a review to make sure that a licensed engineer sized the culvert and it passes the 100-year event based on their calculations. And then we approve it.
I just kind of got, I'll be honest with you, I don't see we brought these permits in so that we know what size of pipes are going to be installed in there. Because we've always had a lot of people who come back and put in a 6-inch pipe or a battery of 6-inch pipes.
Mm-hmm.
Whether it needed to be like a 24 or 36-inch pipe, and it flooded out the road, then the city is responsible for fixing the road, not the landowner. And that's been our issue, and that was the intent of the permit, was protect our road.
And forever, if somebody wanted a driveway permit, the street department would go out and say, you need to put exercise 10 in. And that's how it worked. And so now it's kind of a little bit of a shelf life. I know a lot of the things have changed. The people are coming in and now they're gonna have to get something engineered, and it's a significant cost, and I can see that. I think the reason that Mike and I discussed getting this put on here was if there was some way that would be less costly to a homeowner. You know, if this was a subdivision or something like that, it would be different. But, you know, to spend thousands of dollars for a homeowner to get a P1 put in for their driveway that's a lot. And
sure.
What is that run?
My thought is looking, maybe something that's not as costly that we can somehow, some way make something work for those individuals.
Oh, Chris, what I'm seeing, and I get, but what I'm hearing here is that the city goes out and does a quick survey, and it's a simple bar ditch, 18-inch, which is the minimum, then it's no pole, no nothing, so it's only in these special occasions, when it's in large volume areas that absolutely need, just, if you have a house and it's not anybody else's fault, not your fault, whatever, but you want to build a building, whatever, you gotta have structure on it. If you wanna build a road across a bar ditch, you gotta have a way that it's going to survive and not impact the city, so.
Right.
I get that it can be costly, but if you want to bridge it, that would look like about an 8-foot drop. That was large.
It may only be I don't know the drainage area of that one, but it could be anywhere from an 18-inch pipe up through a box.
Sure.
You know what I'm saying? But the fact is, because you were building in city easement, and the city's responsible for this.
That's why I'm thinking the city should size that pipe.
But
No.
I don't know if I want that liability.
No, and that's what he's saying on private drives, it's up to the property owner to decide on that.
But it's in the right of way.
But it's a city right of way. It is a city easement.
Once the work has been completed, we take it over. But we certainly don't want to go out there and size the pipe.
But we don't think it was.
Because they were responsible
But
for.
we take over the tin horn, or whatever's put in there, whatever drainage structure's put in there.
So what you're telling me is if it got washed out, we'd have to put it back?
Well, it's the same, it's the exact same thing with water lines and roads or anything
That's what I
else
was
we do with
thinking.
developers.
Mhm.
We don't do the work for them,
Right.
they do it.
I'm not, and I'm not on that, I'm actually saying that there, on something like that, it needs an engineer. You're saying we should engineer it?
Yes, if it's
I
in the
know,
road,
but
if it's in the
engineer-
roadway.
No.
easement.
That's the cost of being a landowner and accessing your land. We don't care
No,
if we access their land.
landowner pays for whatever pipe size goes in there. If we're having an engineering
I know.
company size off on it, then we have our city engineer sign off on it.
He's not designing, he's only signing off.
He's just signing
He's
it.
reviewing.
He just do
But
it.
he's not signing off, his signature's not gonna be on the engineer's plan.
He's
Same
signing
thing
off
we
on
got
the
a front,
permit.
so we go over here to the ridge, and an engineer designed all the flood and everything that's going over there, and our city staff is reviewing that, saying, okay, yep, it's been done by the appropriate engineer, and it meets, I'm doubling the calculations just to verify that it's doing right. That's their job as a review. But to design, again, I just think that's part of
An
it.
engineer can design and an engineer can review. We're not asking him to design it because that's their access to their property. We don't care, we just don't want it affecting ours, which is why he signs off on it, but he's not doing any design, he's just using his,
I
which
mean,
is
what
what
do
we
we charge them
want.
for the review?
The driveway permit?
Yeah.
How much is the driveway permit? I'd have to look.
35 bucks.
35.
$35, so we're not getting hit
That's
for
what
two
you're worth.
engineering charges, you get one engineering charge.
The issue is now you've got a private, the guy just wants to build a house and he's got thousands of dollars in engineering costs going into accessing his property. And, you know, Mike's argument is, it's on the city right away. And is the city gonna take it over? If it becomes a city property, like Mike says, are they gonna maintain that? Are they going to replace the horn which is out? Are they gonna be required to, you know, fix it if something happens to that tin horn? I don't know, I mean, it's just a lot for a private drive for a homeowner to access their property. And then that's why I wanted to discuss it. And I like it too. You know, if it's developer, I'd say, oh, it costs to do business. Homeowner,
Well, 1,000% get that, I mean, but it's also, I mean, if I look at, I've been looking at land for the last 3 or 4 months, and I look at land, and if it's, I'm getting into land, and it's got a tiered, used to be agriculture there, and I gotta figure out, but I have to, if I wanna put a house there on this property, I bought it, it's my property, it's, I'm not a developer, but I've gotta handle that water. So one, it doesn't affect my building, but also gotta affect, how does it affect everybody around me? That's my responsibility to choose that land and to build what I'm asking to build. That's part of due diligence going into buying a property.
That's outside of the right of way.
I'm just saying, to me, it's very much the same deal. The city has the right of way, meaning that we have the ability to tell you that you need to do these things, and you need to do it up to our standards, because we're gonna be, it's going to affect our road if it's not done right, because it's gonna cause water to go on, which we're gonna be liable for.
If I remember correctly, even the county size of pipe structure.
they do.
Well, maybe they could do that for us. That's a benefit we
You
get
know,
from our county.
And then, you know, me as a landowner, you know, if it rains over 2 inches, the road in front of my house floods and it circles my house like a moat because the city's pipes are way too small at 24th and Portland. And I've been forever, it's been like forever. You know, I literally, I have to drive through water a foot deep to get out of my, because it's sheeting over the road for probably 3/8 of a mile.
And there's cost somebody about that.
Because the city's pipes cannot.
I want to hear what that's
I mean, I think we probably disagree. I don't have a problem with requiring them to have it engineered.
What do
I don't,
other cities do?
Well, maybe we need to look at that before we talk about this a whole lot more.
Somebody else who's, I mean, what about, I mean, you may not know offhand, but like, what other cities, how have they dealt with this? Maybe we could find out.
So I'm not sure the answer.
Yeah, that's okay, I
I
didn't.
mean, I know with the developments that are part of the development, but usually once the city accepts the improvement, it's the city's doing.
I'd be curious
I love to.
what some of these other mixed use, so it's not completely rural like the county, but you have a city infrastructure plus. some of these
We have
rural-
an issue of being somewhat in between rural and urban right
Yeah.
now.
Right.
And I'll be honest with you, right now, I feel like every drainage structure that we have designed in our city needs to be urban. Because that's where we're headed.
depending on what area of the city you're in.
Doesn't matter what area
I
the
don't
city
necessarily
is.
disagree with you, but the problem is,
Any section line road needs to be designed with an urban coefficient.
I just want to say, just as far as driveway permits, and a private drive is not like a public street. So they're making a decision, the homeowner, to put the driveway in this location so they can access their private property. They already have one driveway off of 16th, Southeast 16th, that accesses this house here. And if I could get to my aerial, my computer, the connection's acting up. This driveway, this is the event center, this is the Brush Creek Event Center. This drive goes to their parking lot that's down south, parking lot, and then from the parking lot, they have a drive to the house that they're building now. They came in for a building permit. If there's engineered plans, just like our retaining wall permit, anything over 4 feet, you're gonna have to get stamped engineered plans. So according to our code, we can require this. They have to pay for their building permit, they have to pay for their driveway permit as well. Any requirement we have, they need to pay for that. This is especially difficult because the location that they're proposing it is also in FEMA floodplain, which means that they would also have to get a no-rise certificate, submit that, and then we have to review that as well. So they have additional costs. We don't foot that bill
Well,
for them.
I'm just talking about in general, not this one in particular.
Yeah,
To be honest, I'm talking about in general, if anybody comes out and buys 5 acres or 2 acres or 1 acre or even a half-acre lot, and they're putting in their lot, putting in the driveway, because when, I'll take for instance, when I built my house 26 years ago, city didn't have anything to say about what size pipe, anything went in. They didn't even question what size of pipe I had for my driveway.
We didn't have the ordinances on this.
Right, we didn't have any ordinances at the time.
right.
We just had building permits.
and I can go through my building permit inspection, and I can tell you that the things that did get done
Right.
10 years ago. that should
My
have been.
neighbors across the street from me sized down their pipe, put in extra. I said, that ain't gonna cut it. And guess what? My street gets flooded and it washes across
Should
the
have
down my
engineered
driveway.
that.
They should have engineered it, exactly. You know, I was lucky enough that I had the capabilities of doing that. The average homeowner does not have the capabilities of doing that. You know, is it, you know, we're talking about, what, $300 an hour for engineering fees for what, about 6 hours? Maybe 3 hours max?
Depending on the one. This one here,
It would be a lot more.
But Mike, the average home and average lot is not gonna require them to see.
No.
I mean,
That's why I said.
This is your
engineered
special
dollars.
This is a special
And,
service.
and what's gonna require, what we're talking about is special. I think most are gonna be able to be handled in the 18-inch minimum.
Most of
I
them,
mean, most of them.
Luke will go out and look at it and say, yep, that's fine, put an 18-inch in, and move on. That's it.
But if you choose to put a road and put a drive in an area that requires
But I-
special, I just think that's part of the choice in what they do.
So, I hate to say it, but some, I mean, just, I'm gonna play the flip-flop here, okay? If Luke says that for one landowner, yeah, 18 inches is fine, but we're gonna go tell another landowner, you're gonna have to go get that engineered.
well,
We're not
again,
being fair, we're not being consistent
Yeah,
on
we
our.
are, because it's a private drive,
Right.
and it's gonna require more than an 18-inch, more than our standard, so they need to have an engineer.
that's the threshold, correct? And then also on newer, you know, any subdivisions that have been going through, the last 6 months, we require a culvert table as-built plans.
I'm
Part of
glad.
the as-built plan, so the half-acre lots and things, we already have the design engineers sized all those culverts, you know, block 16, lot 2 is the 24, on and on and on.
But we still have, you know, even like Carl, I guess, your daughter was looking at building a house. Now just gonna cut out a couple acres out of there, right, for the house? You still have to have a driveway. You still have to have a pipe size.
So ODOT follows the same process that we do. They get it sized by an engineer and then they review it.
I don't know, maybe I'm standing on shaky ground here, but I haven't.
I would like to maybe discuss this again, but I would like to see some what other communities around our size do.
That's what I
Your
was.
Mustangs, your Tunnels, some of those, and kind of get an idea of where we're an outlier or whether, we all know our ordinances have some tweaking that needs to be done. And so, if we can maybe put this on, but put it on.
Without taking any action tonight, we'll make sure that we have information voting in the council at the next meeting.
Very good.
That sounds like a plan.
All right.
Can we take a 5-minute break? All right.
You use yours then.
Let's take a 5-minute break.
I'm good. You know.
I don't think the title requires, but I found the permit, it doesn't say anything about requiring it. I'll let you spend your time though. I don't think they do, but I'm not surprised, but they're smaller than us, so I would use that as an example of why we shouldn't do it either,
I think Mustang's a good one we need to look at.
though. Yukon probably has some.
More, I think, is one we need to look at.
More so urban now, though, I don't know.
Well, but it's urban, but it's,
Yeah.
but it's rural, I mean,
There's some.
it stretches into rural areas.
Item number 10, discussion of possible action on increasing support for the Senior Citizen Center to $3,000 per month. We've received a request from Roy Wilson with the Senior Center, and we talked about this some. He submitted the letter. Roy did call me today and said he's cut pay, could he please not attend, and I said that's fine. We've already approved this in the budget, and it's very little cost, so I think now we just need to bless it. And so I'll make a motion.
Make a motion to,
I'll go, you.
I'll make a motion for that. I'm just moving you along.
Motion second.
Public comments.
So if I stay here much longer, I'm gonna get so sugar up.
Mike Fullerton,
Yes.
Tommy Clay,
Yes.
Yes.
Mercy White.
Yes.
Carl Nell.
Yes. Item 11, discussion of possible action approval annual budget distributing amendment for fiscal year July 1, 2022 through June 30, 2020 and adoption of City of Newcastle Resolution number 2022-01.
Again, this is the budget for the general fund or general government, and it does also include 5% salary increase for all non-uniform employees, no equipment, and no vehicles have been budgeted this next year.
You say non-uniform, does that mean we're gonna talk about uniforms as
In
well?
executive session,
Okay.
yes. This does include, however, $500,000 in the 30% money, the 30% of half-cent sales tax for the animal shelter that is to be built.
Everybody's chewing, sorry.
Motion to approve agenda item 11.
Second.
Motion second for approval of item number 11.
Mike Fullerton,
Yes.
Tommy Clay.
Yes.
Gene Reed,
Yes.
Mercy White, Carl Nell.
Yes. Item number 12, discussion of possible action on approval of 2022-2023 street department program and project cost estimates.
So I did provide some project sheets in the budget, in your packets to show the projects that we're proposing for next year, for 22-23. It does include, of course, Eunice Street, which has been put off now, and this past year's been put off. But we're much closer. We have been.
More engineering, that's on that up.
There is more engineering it's actually, a lot of it's been done. We were supposed to meet with Kenny Sullivan about 3 weeks ago out here on site to kind of look at what he has proposed. And unfortunately, he and his wife contracted COVID.
Oh, my God.
So he's probably just now getting back into the swing of things, so we haven't had a chance to meet again.
I mean, that's just not gonna be a way to avoid doing it during school, so you school you then, huh?
Most likely not. I mean, but it's gotta get done. We're
Best
just
laid
like,
plans.
just like everybody else that's been here tonight voicing concerns, things of that nature, we have a lot of people on Eunice Street
Sure.
that are rightfully voicing concerns about the roadway. So,
Eunice Street either.
but, roughly $1.5 million worth of road projects. We think that, well, in the bridge, you see the 40th Street Bridge was council approved the other night, last Monday night, and that came in at 216, so we've shaved off some there, thankfully, what we're projecting out of next year's road funds. But, I mean, it's still, and this is, you know, every one of these projects too, street superintendent had to go back and readdress and recalculate because of inflation. I mean, and we're, you know, by the time we get ready to do some of these projects, I'm not sure. I'm not sure that it's going to be where we think it's going to be. So,
Well, I know that we're sitting in the lumber tank last week, a week and a half ago. So I'm hoping that starts a trend on construction.
Asphalt doesn't tank.
Wow.
it was $60 a ton.
I'm just saying overall construction costs, I'm hoping they're gonna start dwindling down a little bit
Yeah.
in that other direction. But we'll see.
But I think he's laid out some good projects. And now Harvey Street, we still don't have engineering for Harvey Street. I think our city engineer, and he has said that he can do it as well, engineer that project for us. But it's gonna take him some time. We've got it covered up. I mean, that's just all there is to it. He is engineering, our park stuff for us. He's looking at all these plats that are coming in, making sure that developers are doing the things they need to do to meet city standards, and, I mean, he's just absolutely swamped.
How did you get without him, man?
He's got the civil engineer, Corey, in the office as well, that's helping him out on doing some of these things. But, I mean, unless we go outside and have some engineering firm do these projects for us, which is our goal is not to do that. And it costs more money as well, so.
This might be a stupid out-of-the-box question. I think we're in an influx right now. I mean, is there not professional services that you can basically hire an attorney to come in temporarily, work side by side through professional type service that?
You mean an engineer?
Yeah, but an engineer, not a company. I'm saying an engineer. Maybe that's not.
Hired engineer?
No, there's services out there that have professional, you hire a professional comes in and work, but it's almost like a.
Like Express.
Like Express, yeah, they have, but not laborers, but they have professional services. And that you can hire where you pay a whole lot less than paying a company, because you're paying a person to come in and work, but it would be a temporary fix instead of trying to go out and fill a full long-term position, just to help out. That's just my thought. If that was even.
Rather than project-based, I mean.
Well, and I have no intentions of hiring another engineer.
I know, I'm saying to help us, if this is slowing us down for a short period of time, to help get through some stuff and help them get on their feet.
From my perspective on the Harvey project, 2023, they're gonna realign Harvey as part of the Highway 935 project. But also, we need to get additional right-of-way before we really do what we need to do in Harvey. We don't have it yet. Kevin can promise me he's working on it. But with the drainage that's gonna be required there, and with the potential we feel for redevelopment of that area, especially between Harvey Street and I-35, we need to do it right. We need to be able to get utilities in there correctly. So, we've got a lot to do to get right-of-way obtained all along there. And so maybe a delay in engineering is not gonna be such a bad thing. And his proposed, right now, utilizing millings, to raise that thing up a couple foot, very reasonably priced. Millings are able to obtain those fairly cheap, and those will pack down pretty good, make a much better road than we've got, and get it up out of the water. And be a short-term solution while we engineer and obtain right-of-way.
You can get a couple of feet out of one,
Yeah, well, if we buy 2,000 tons.
Right.
You got.
I didn't realize you could get that much pipe.
Basically put it on like dry asphalt.
Mayor, what's the timeline again? When did you estimate the construction will begin over there on Highway 9?
On Highway 9, it's a 248 project, and they will complete it in 2023. Come heck or high water, right, Mike?
That's my understanding, it's supposed to start, I think,
They got the
I think in the
chainsaws,
spring,
they'll do it.
2023, we'll have to do it.
Well, the governor and everybody got promised it would be completed in the year 23.
Yeah. What was this,
I-35 Highway 9 interchange. Now, if it doesn't go out to bid until the spring, they're not gonna get done in 23.
And it also depends on the utilities that they move.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So, but his promise to everybody was it would be done in 23, but who knows?
I was thinking of tribal home accountable, you mentioned the governor's name, but I don't know. That's like
Well,
oil and water
there's two
right now.
interchanges being redone right there in that location. The one on Highway 9 and the one at 74, Highway 74. It's just south of there.
There's the Goldie one.
The
We
Goldie.
don't care about that one.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I don't care
done first, so we'll have.
But anyway, so hopefully we can, you know, this will be at least an interim solution. And, I mean, it raises the road up, it'll be good for the base of whatever we do long-term there. But my concern is if we get sewer down in that area, being able to have adequate right-of-way drainage, because it's gonna take a lot of drainage area, to carry the water down there. So have utilities, have adequate drainage, do it right, so we won't have to worry about doing it.
We're gonna make sure, just for reference, to make sure that our manholes are A, all enough, or B, sealed.
What's this as start date on this is 1/1900, when do you really anticipate it? On Harvey, it says 1/1900.
I think it's gonna be our first project
Okay.
this summer,
Cool, okay.
after July 1 on the budget.
1900.
1900.
I heard you say something about Kenny was looking at Enos.
Yes. He's the one that actually started engineering on units anyway.
Okay. What percentage are we done on it?
I don't know. We haven't had a chance to meet with him
Okay.
to see where he's at, but I know he's sent us some actual plans to look at. Luke looked at some of that. Luke's done this type of work and the drainage and everything else, and he's not real satisfied with it. So that was the reason we were going to meet on site, and we haven't had that opportunity.
Right. How's it gonna affect our utilities and stuff? Have we looked at that as well? So we may have to.
I don't think it's gonna affect our utility over there. I mean, we're not widening, we're not increasing, mortgage width or anything, it's curved together.
Right.
So I don't think it's gonna impact utilities at all.
Okay.
It's just tear out the road and build a brand new one and put some adequate drainage in.
Yeah, well, that's the question with the drainage, is the utilities costing that drainage.
I don't think it will. I think it's gonna be fine.
I just need to make sure.
Sure.
Engineer hopefully will take care of that.
You'd be surprised at how many times I've found that, getting a drainage structure.
So anyway, our road projects, 1.5 million. Harvey Street, Eunice, got some other asphalt overlay projects in it. And then I think a few chip seal projects for the next year.
Right, I speak about chip seal, I'm like, dang, we're working on the roads. Tommy told him.
Wow, that's just.
Keep it going,
It's
Carol,
just,
we'll back you
it's
up.
just ignorant. I mean, it's a bad, I hate using that word, it's just lack of knowledge.
Yeah.
They just don't know what it is, and they come from a city that, or wherever,
Where
it's
it's
nothing
concrete.
but chip seal and, or concrete, and nothing but asphalt or concrete, but they get all of that, and what in the world, y'all just destroy this road?
Yeah.
No, we didn't.
Well, and one thing, and the mayor pointed this out, I believe last week, and asked if we were going to fog seal the chip seal project because of dust and loose gravel, whatever. One of the issues with the loose gravel, Mayor, is they haven't swept it yet. They were allowing it to settle and be packed a little bit.
That heat good stuff.
Yeah, I mean, so sweeping it will take care of some of the gravel, not so much the dust, of course. But to fog seal everything that we just actually laid is $47,000.
Well, the reason one of the reasons I asked you, we didn't do that just several years ago, boy, John came back and this is what we need to do, this is the best thing, this is what we need to do, and then it was really great, and now we don't do it anymore. Why don't we do it if it was so great?
Yeah. Yeah.
Because it did help out, it does, it did help.
What does fog seal do?
It seals it, coming over the tar right back over the top. Right, tar ladder. You do tar,
Okay.
you broadcast the aggregate in the tar, and you come back over, and you spray
Gotcha.
tar back over it. It kind of, one thing is safety wise, when I do, it makes me cringe, motorcycles on that stuff is like on ice.
Yeah.
Which one do we do most recently?
What was the one on Facebook?
There's 8 miles of it that we did. 24th, 32nd. Portland.
Okay.
Fox.
All of them.
No, West Fox.
West.
Yeah, Fox is
Yeah,
the
West
one where
Fox.
the bike went down.
Oh, was
He
that
went
from
down
that?
to 130.
Or 130?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That was just washout
Oh,
rock
is that, okay.
Yeah. I
because of
wasn't
the rain.
thinking that was chip seal.
Where did that happen?
130 and, just before 104 Larry Street,
Motorcycle accident?
14-year-old.
Like I said, it was just a driveway, it had gravel, but the gravel was the road.
Yeah, I didn't think that was the chip
So
seal.
what is the boy's name?
Um,
I'm trying to think it's Jaden Rise, but he's trying to think there's only a few other.
No, the kid was hurt.
So anyway, asking for approval on the total project.
Okay. All right, any other questions or concerns?
What number is that?
Yeah, I think you guys are doing great on that, I appreciate it.
Yeah, that's good. I can, you can make a motion?
Yep, somebody needs to.
Okay, make a motion for agenda item number 12, road projects for 22-23.
Second.
Motion second for approval of item 12.
Mike Fullerton,
Yes.
Tommy Clay.
Yes.
Gene Reed.
Yes.
Marcy White.
Yes.
Carl Nell.
Yes. Item number 13, discussion of possible action on approval of annual budget, including any amendments for the Newcastle Economic Development Authority for fiscal year July 1, 2022 through June 30, 2023, and adoption of City of Newcastle Resolution number 2022-02.
Right now, I believe this includes, $7,800, I think it's $7,800 that we anticipated in revenue, and we recently found out that source of revenue has been gone, depleted. It will not renew, so now we're looking at ways to advertise the billboard, or the city's billboard up north, to keep that revenue coming in. But I mean, Nita right now has how much?
I think it's like 38,040.
Almost 40,000 in it.
Somewhere like that.
So, I mean, there's really no big revenue generator other than the billboard for it. And we
What's the
haven't spent.
outflow?
What's
What's the expense for it?
we haven't spent any money out of that.
But what would it be targeted for? Is that the one that?
Economic development.
Marketing?
Yes, that's correct, and we haven't done that yet.
I didn't ask about modifying, because I figured we were gonna try to find somebody that.
Yeah, and we will. I mean, we'll try to find somebody to rent those billboards up there again.
I'm sure somebody will.
Hopefully.
Have a motion?
No motion to approve agenda item number 13, for the budget for economic development authority.
I'll second.
Motion second for approval of item number 13.
Mike Fullerton,
Yes.
Tommy Clay.
Yes.
Gene Reed.
Yes.
Marcy White. Yes. Carl Nell.
Yes. Item number 14, discussion of possible action on approval of real estate purchase agreement between William R. Owen and the City of Newcastle for Newcastle Sports Complex expansion project.
Same as,
Yep.
I make motion to approve item 14.
Second.
Motion second for approval of item number 14.
Mike Fullerton,
Yes.
Tommy Clay.
Yes.
Gene Reed.
Yes.
Marcy White.
Yes.
Carl Nell.
Yes. Item number 15, discussion of possible action regarding the determination of use of American Rescue Plan Act ARPA funds.
The city has $930,000 of ARPA funds right now. As Jeannie mentioned earlier, it's in the wastewater plant fund. We did reporting, Jeannie and I did reporting on the, I can't remember what they call it now, it's been a couple months. When we did the reporting, yes, it was the first reporting to ARPA or something. But anyway, during that period, we were able to declare a loss of revenue, which we had discussed before in council meetings. Now, we can use these funds for whatever purpose the city so desires. We will be getting another $930,000 in the near future. Not exactly sure when that comes in, probably within the next 6 or 7 months, because we're supposed to get the second half of that within a year of receiving the first half. And it's been a while since we received that first half, so it should be coming around fairly quickly. I would like to propose using some of those funds, at least a portion of it, for vehicles and equipment, since we have not budgeted anything at all in our budget for vehicles and equipment, and we do have some needs there. However, we have a lot of needs. I would also propose that we use some of these funds to upsize some of our water mains that we've discussed along our section lines and some other prioritized areas around the city. And there's very specific areas that we need to look at where water pressure is hampered by inadequate lines.
Folks.
Yes.
Well,
Do we have any short-term debt that we're paying interest on?
We do.
So,
Well, short-term, no.
Well, even long-term, I mean, other than real property, like fire truck stuff, I mean, anything where we're making payments, if any of that could pay off one of those, and we make those same payments back to ourselves for some of those projects, I'd love to get out of, further get out of debt, if there's room for that.
And this is council's call. I'm not-
My thing about that is, we've got, the debt we've got now locked in at historically low rates. And we have the need, especially with the water lines, to go ahead and get those done, because we're right on the verge of having serious water delivery issues, especially in the western and southwest side of our town. And I think that, you know, rather than pay off really, really low interest loans, we're better off putting some money in infrastructure when we've got it, and that'll pay us some tremendous benefits, because I am very concerned that come August, there's gonna be a lot of people that won't have adequate water in that part of town.
Well, I would agree with that. We haven't discussed the amount yet, so I didn't know if you need the entire 930 for that, or if you could do a combination of that and.
Well, I think it was one, he had proposed buying some new vehicles and not financing them, or equipment,
That's good.
and using some for water line upgrades.
And you had thought of using it for the station down south?
And
Or
that,
do we have plans on how, I mean, it's quick money turnaround to do it there, but I don't know.
we're still discussing that with the nation.
Okay,
and
okay,
We'll see that.
gotcha.
They have yet to, agree or disagree to allow.
Correct. I am preparing a document to provide to the nation. I'm a little delayed in doing that. Been out of town a little bit. But I'm preparing a document to provide to the nation, and I'll get that to them in the near future. And then we're going to discuss things again.
Cool.
I might add just some things that Kevin and I talked about over the last several months since we got this money. Initially, when we got it, we thought we had to spend it on certain things, because that was the guidance, the way it was heading towards. That's why we stored it in the wastewater treatment plant. And since how we found out differently, there's been a lot of suggestions as to what to use the money for. The only thing I ask is that we consider what it's gonna benefit. Some of those things that have been thrown out, it's not gonna put anything in it, but it will substantially help if we can buy some of the equipment that is needed. We've done a good job over the last probably 3 to 4 years of knocking out some big time purchases for some of these departments and equipment that they badly needed. And as far as the debts go, Kevin and I look at the debts at the end of every fiscal year, and we've closed out debts probably the last 3 years, totally.
Yeah,
I know that.
this budget year is the first one that we haven't done that, which is not saying that it still couldn't be done, because we do have a ending with a very good fund balance. But we're trying to keep deficit down. We're still budgeting a $93,000 deficit going into 22-23 on the general fund side, which is significantly less than what we did last year. We just don't want to keep that up, because eventually we're always cutting into our fund balance to try to cover that deficit, and we don't want to keep that going. But in order to do that, we had to cut vehicles and equipment. And I think I told council in the budget message that I sent out, this budget is primarily focused on personnel this year. And we can go through all that as well, but we gotta do something for personnel, or we're gonna be in so much trouble with trying to keep people. We just lost one today at City Hall. And, it's kind of a weird deal, and I don't want to get into it, because I'll just get madder than I was this morning. But trying to attract people, trying to pay people, we had 2 street people quit. One said, well, I got a job grading oil lease roads for $70,000 a year. That's all we want to do.
Gosh.
Well, there's no way to compete with that.
We can't compete with that stuff.
But So anyway, I mean, you know, but we've gotta pay what we can pay to the best of our ability, as high as we can get up there, and still maintain a adequate budget and nothing that's putting us over the edge, over the top. But then, that's why we wanted to maintain that reserve fund balance as well. So if we get off into a major inflationary, I mean, we're going downhill in the next 6 months, we've got some really good cushion with our fund balance. But, or for disasters, if we have another ice storm, that's $700,000, we better have that stuff in place. So anyway, I am completely open to council's, desires and what you actually want to see it spent for. I'm just saying those are the needs that we have.
I noticed the other day, randomly, that, is the canine truck getting pretty old? Because it looks like it's wearing down.
That would be a replacement.
Okay, yeah, I was thinking, I walked by and I thought, ooh, that's looking, but it was after I read that, so I was thinking this may be one of them because it's looking
It is.
old.
And here again, I don't even know if we can get them.
Yeah, really. I don't know, you seem to find stuff where other people don't, so I
Well,
have
I
faith.
mean, we dig around the best we can, but
You're good at it.
But, you know, I mean, right now, yes, you might be able to get an F-150 pickup where you need it, but you can't get the chips for it that's required to move the seats or do whatever. It's just ridiculous.
Yep.
Anyway,
What do you want from us? Do you want us to tell you, provide us with an actual proposal for us to yay and nay on?
I can tell you right now, the equipment and vehicles that are needed is $944,000.
That's equipment, vehicles.
That'd take about half of what our total projected is. So we want to put half on that, half on water line?
That's my thoughts, but I mean, we could even go less, go 500,000 on vehicles and equipment, and we just have to hold off until the next year to get the rest of them. Or if our fund balance holds out, our taxes hold out, we could purchase some of those things out of fund balance later on in the year.
But how worn is this stuff? Is it pretty?
Some of it's in pretty bad shape.
Okay. Well, no, that's fine, like, well, the water stuff, the water line stuff, is that,
And that's in
would
bad
that be
shape.
the other half? Like,
Well,
how much would that be?
You know, my thoughts are, we've got the 900 some odd thousand, if we spend it on, went ahead and tried to buy vehicles and equipment. The water line, Kevin's trying to get a priority list put together for water line. Then we've got to engineer it, and we've got to get OBEQ approval. It's gonna be a while before we buy, well, we can buy pipe, but it's gonna be a while before we expend funds for that. It's just setting them aside, maybe when the second tranche comes through,
Right.
we could have those funds to go ahead and pay for that. And so that would be, I think
My
my.
projected to receive that, the second kind of phases, I know it's whenever they want to send it, but.
I'm sorry,
The second part of the.
Within, what, 6 months?
I think we're gonna see it within the next 6 months. Because I thought they had told us, Jeannie, you remember when we got the first half, that within was it a year?
I believe so.
I think it was. And I know it's been 4 to 6 months since we got that first half.
Yeah, and it was just, Stephanie was with us less than a month ago?
No, it's more than that,
Was it one that?
yeah. So,
So Carl, are you saying start working on the engineering piece so when the money comes in? What did you mean by that?
Well, I think we can go ahead and buy vehicles and then start, getting the priority list of where we're gonna put water lines. And then we will have to go out to bid for engineering on that and all that stuff. So we're not gonna spend any money on that for a while, and even though we're starting the process. It's gonna be a while before we would have to cut the checks.
Yeah.
yeah,
Do we have to spend it by a certain time?
26, I believe it is.
No, we can get that done. That seems like a while, yeah. I mean,
We've been talking about this section on the road for a lot of years, and we've never really gotten started on it. And I
now,
think we're reaching critical mass.
well, I mean, we keep hearing, like, when some of these new neighborhoods go in, the older neighborhoods will say, our water's pressure, you're putting the neighborhood in because our water pressure's already bad.
Well, we've got all the water in the world, but if you want to get someone scared, pull up you go down to City Hall, go in conference room, have Kevin pull up our water atlas. And you can see all the 4-inch lines that we've got running through town,
Distribution line.
distribution
Ooh,
lines.
really?
Yes. And so we need to get some
District.
12-inch lines on some of these to loop that southwest part of town, or because 4-inch lines run dry fairly quickly when you got enough people sucking on them.
Yeah,
It's-
no.
Can we not use impact funds for upgrading lines?
We
We
can,
Yeah. There's a couple avenues there. There's fund balance and ARPA money for vehicles, equipment. There is impact fees and ARPA money for water stuff, so,
or sewer, and
or sewer.
then we talked about, potentially impact for the lift station down there. I mean, there's lots of different ways.
Well, I mean, I guess the ways you wanna keep people happier with their water and their toilets.
Yeah. You want water to come out when they turn it on.
Yeah, I mean, it's
And a good road to drive
That's-
on is more than one too.
That's true. I mean, basic needs, like, we gotta get their basic needs met, and if we've got towards distribution, that's, yeah, we need to get that.
And if you haven't seen that water atlas, I would encourage you to, next time you're at City Hall, have Kevin pull it up and show it to you.
I'll bring my water man, because he can.
How's it different, is it pretty different than what's on
Oh, ArcGIS?
It's what's on there.
It's the same thing.
Yeah.
They can just interpret it.
No, I mean, you can see it on there, it's pretty self-explanatory.
And-
No, that's why I've been pulling that up a lot.
Yeah.
I know, I just, yeah.
No, I like it, it's been extremely helpful.
It's where we're
Wow.
headed.
So,
Jeff uses
what
it.
action items do you want on this?
Do we need an action on it, besides giving them permission to spend it?
Go, multiply.
I mean, it's all items that we,
Yeah.
No, you would kind of know, that's what you want to do, but anyway.
I like they're giving you blank.
Well,
Yeah, I don't like that.
If you want to feel comfortable, bring us back an exact split in writing next time, we can
Yeah,
prove
I
it.
mean.
I can for vehicles, I don't know that I can do that for water.
Oh, it's
Well,
just
you
a
can
rod
say, I
thing.
want
I
to,
keep the rest of it for.
yes,
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 yeah.
yes, yes.
Yeah.
And we can even approve,
well, do you know the vehicle deal off the top of your head?
he said 948,000.
It's 944.
And when you
You
say
got some heavy
vehicles, are you
equipment in there?
including John's equipment?
And
Yep.
equipment.
Yes, I am,
Yeah, he's.
but I
a
think I
equipment.
have that. I have it right here on my desktop, I think.
No, don't get started on your desktop again. You're not gonna be a while to find it, aren't you? It's the nastiest
Right
desktop
here
I've
is
ever
what I
seen.
have. 944,106,
Oh, we already found it.
Chevy Tahoes, F-250s. Now, these are prices, that I've kind of looked at on our state contract. However, for example, on these Tahoes, those are not four-wheel drive. Well, I allow for four-wheel drive, but they're not on there. So some of that stuff, we may have to go to bid in order to get four-wheel drive. On the equipment, Gradall is one piece of equipment. In order to get our ditch lines like they need to be, that's $325,000. And this is a quote, this is actual quote. Tractor boom mower, $170,500. And then a skid steer, which our skid steer is completely shot for the street department, that's $88,500. So,
And how much is our first half of ARPA money?
$930,000.
My dad has one who doesn't need, just plays in it.
Well, how about we just do 930 for that, and then if we need to supplement with some other stuff, we can do that, so.
Yes, sir.
I'll make a motion to authorize the city manager to utilize $930,000 with ARPA funds for vehicles and equipment, and the remaining ARPA funds for upgrading the water system.
Second.
Motion second for approval item number 15.
Mike Fullerton,
Yes.
Tommy Clark,
Yes.
Gene Reed,
Yes.
Marcy White, yes, Carl Nell.
Yes. Item number 17, city manager comments.
Real quick, was I asleep? Did we skip 14?
That was 14, I think.
16.
No,
No, we did.
No, we did 14.
14 was
Yeah.
that,
Gene made a
we
motion.
redid the, we had to do it
Wow.
again.
We did it on both sides.
And let me look, you voted, I think. Yeah, it was a 5-0. You voted.
But how about 16, Bill? I'm 16.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yep, I'm sorry. I did skip 16.
No, he did not make the motion.
Item 16, discussion regarding the Newcastle Community Foundation. Thanks, Gene. I did skip 16. I already checked it off. Sorry.
Okay, so what this item is, and I kind of explained that in the summary that I sent out to council, A few years back, the Community Foundation was formed, council members, current council members at that time became the board members of the Community Foundation. Everybody I've talked to, nobody really knows how that was supposed to transition. If there were people supposed to be appointed to that board and then council members back off. If successive council members that came on were elected, whatever, if they took those spots.
That's what I understood, that whoever sat on council sat on the board. That was what I understood.
I don't remember.
So they were gonna have outside people.
No, but I think additional, but I think that the council state that, and maybe that was where we wanted to start.
There is a trust, I haven't seen it.
Because I don't know.
I think that probably, you probably don't need to discuss this till we got that to look at, because it may.
Well, and so basically, all I wanted to do was to bring it up to council. The board members of the Community Foundation need to call a meeting at some point here, and we need to discuss all that in that forum.
Are the board members still the same board members that originally?
In my understanding, it's gonna be you.
I figure it's gonna be council.
They were different.
Well, right, I mean, back then it was everybody sitting around this table plus Tiffany and Cision, in place of Marcy. That was who was on the original board. That was in my, no, well, I'm just saying, if nothing has been done, then it's still those exact same people that are still sitting on the board.
She still is.
So the Cindy plus the members.
Anyway,
Wow.
I will contact the chair of the Community Foundation board
Who is that?
and see when I will assume it's the mayor. And I will see if we can get a meeting scheduled.
Okay.
And we'll see if we can find that document that,
Yep.
Oh, I have the paperwork.
very good.
Kevin, I just sent it to you.
Yep, that'll work.
Typically, you'll address those
Yes.
issues.
From her.
Who the board members
bylaws.
should be.
She sent it to me.
The only reason that this came up in this meeting is because we thought we were going to run into the issue with Bill Owen, and his donation would go to the Community Foundation. The city would have to try to get that money back from the Community Foundation, and there's been no activity in the Community Foundation, so, I mean, it needs to, it's a moot point, this right now, but anyway.
So is there an existing need though? We need to have that foundation
Absolutely,
in place?
yes.
We
That's the
need
tax
to
thing
know
you're talking
who
about,
the
right?
administrator of it is,
Gonna show
who
us.
is Nick.
So.
Yeah, we just need to have a meeting and we'll hash all that stuff out. All right, we, no action on item 16, item number 17, city manager comments.
No comments at this time.
Item number 18, council member comments.
Could we look at, is our tree trimmer working?
Our boom mower,
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's back up.
that was gonna be my comment as well.
There's a lot,
A lot of growth.
Those of us that have big tall trailers that drive around this town,
We find everything.
I drive mine way too much.
You had combines driving down Main Street yesterday because Portland Avenue is so covered up with trees, you can't get down.
Wow.
It's okay now, you got 130 so go ahead.
Especially from Fox Lane North, Portland is, it's impossible without ripping stuff off the machines now.
Not to mention the water.
I mean, as a general rule of thumb, should it be expected, should the citizens be able to expect that our trees will at least be above DOT regulations?
15.6.
Well, 14, 15, I mean, I know what's, but asking a lot maybe to continue that, but to make it that strict, but I mean, just asking, should that be expected of the city?
They should expect the best that we can do, absolutely. I'm not really sure how high that boom mower actually reaches up safely.
And some of those,
I bet it reaches up 14 feet easy.
there's some areas up by the dump, north of the dump, I mean, the tree hangs literally over the entirety of the road. Where those probably need to be lopped off where they don't completely overhang the road.
Got to be a pretty canopy though.
Well, it looks great, but you're driving.
It's gorgeous until you're.
trees are growing in the right of way, so I don't know if
Yes.
they could come down at all totally, maybe, but it's a lot of work, but.
Well, they took, they're on 16th, I'm only assuming it was a power line company, just probably 5.
Oh,
that big-
vegetation
that-
control.
No, that big of trunks took those trees down that were in that right of way, but they, I mean, it's like, destroyed.
We see great their crew out, they do
Yeah.
that down on us, on one of our farms, we call them out.
Vegetation
Get it,
management.
and they just hit everything around there.
But it's gotta be a wire.
System
There's a
hardening.
wire.
Yeah.
There's a wire, they'll clean it.
They cleared it out now.
On Highway
They will.
130, the wire was on the other side, and the trees were growing, blocking our view, but, I kept thinking, OEC only had a line over there.
Yeah, really.
That's my my complaint too, Michael, I don't know.
I have no complaints, Kevin, that was just the one.
Oh my God. I'm moving on fast.
Okay, I got one more. Got one more. I know me and Kevin's talked about it a little bit, and Carl's talked about it. And I'll emphasize it again, I mean, just like I did earlier on the driveways, we need to start looking at a comprehensive drainage plan for our city. I mean, I know we've got a comprehensive plan going, I don't think that includes drainage though, as well, does it?
No, it will not include drainage.
I think
Norman's still trying to get one of those.
Oh, geez, yeah. Ooh, Jeff just mentioned that the other day.
I mean, and the reason why I say that is Fox Lane is just a prime example of what has happened. We went into a rural area, we converted it to an urban, the drainage flow is coming down, same amount of water coming through there, don't get me wrong, it's just the frequency of that water coming down through there faster. And I just think that we need to start looking at that and comparing how our drainage structures, because I don't, a lot of our drainage structure is sized by the county way back in section 1. We don't know if they're sized it right, we don't even know if they're close.
You were just saying earlier, you wanted to cut it if they go.
Well, I still want our engineer to decide. Now, the county, I'm talking about the county commissioners.
Well, at least you don't have to have a city vote. That's why Norman's still living on there. They have to vote for it.
I don't know, what does that even
Norman
entail?
has a drainage plan that is gonna have funding.
Oh, that's it. It's the money for it that they won't
Well,
get.
I think as we're starting to develop our section line roads, we need to take that into consideration. Not just extend our pipes and call it good, but actually relook at the drainage on those pipes. Because if not, we're gonna get caught in short roads real fast.
In the what?
Caught with our,
Phrase.
just a phrase.
Okay.
What does that even look like, Kevin?
I'm sorry?
What does that even look like?
Like the one that
Hey,
does
needs
the
gears a lot
water.
of money.
Yeah.
It's like the one they're doing for the water.
Yeah,
Drive
it's-
50,
it-
we're
I
doing
want
it.
more than what we're doing for the water.
Yeah,
It
we
would be
know.
like, it would be like, it'd be like engineering the comprehensive plan only, they would have to go around every single roadway and intersection and everything to look at all of our
Drainage pipes.
drainage systems and whatever, you're talking about stormwater drainage, so. And let me tell you, at some point, we're gonna have to get that in place fairly quickly because we are over the population limit now that requires stormwater plans.
Oh,
So
So,
we probably need to start budgeting for
was
it.
that 10,000?
anything over, yes, over 10,000.
So, in a run, I know you can't, but are we talking $250,000 study, we talking $500,000 study?
I would think upwards, wild guess, $1 million.
Jeez.
Would be that much.
I don't know.
We got a lot of areas.
Yes.
I mean, they were talking about engineering a city hall for over $600,000, so any kind of a study like this,
Yeah,
I-
it's never one. It's not like that.
Would
one.
that
That's
be,
my wild
would that
guess.
be comprehended in the other project of the new gen consultants?
no.
So let me ask you, so does that require, does that require a team to make it do it right?
Oh, yes.
Like you couldn't hire, it wouldn't be an individual engineer to go.
Well, then
It requires surveying, it requires, I mean, just.
No, it wouldn't require surveying, there'd be a lot of drainage area studies, chasing out the drainage area on maps, basically, and putting the right coefficient with the right development that's planned for that area, the comprehensive plan.
Well, the reason I said that is that, cost of doing business here, and all the, everyone who uses our water and uses wastewater, everything like that, somehow something's gotta be generated to address stormwater.
Right.
I didn't know if you comprehend, you know, you consider your rates to deal with that.
And, well, and you're correct, and most cities do put a stormwater fee.
There you go.
Okay.
Well,
I see
if you
what
guys
you're
can
doing. That
research
makes
that, maybe
sense.
bring it back, we're getting a little bit long in the tooth tonight. So any other council member comments? All right, item number 19A, discussion of possible action on entering into executive session as permitted under 25 OS section 307B2, discussing negotiation concerning employees and representatives of employee groups, Twin Cities Lodge number 135, collective bargaining agreement. Item 19B, discussion of possible action on entering into executive session as permitted under 25 OS section 307B2, discussing negotiation concerning employees and representatives of employee groups, IAFF Local 3910, collective bargaining agreement. Item 19C, discussion of possible action on entering into an executive session as permitted under 25 OS 307B1, discussing the employment, hiring, appointment, promotion, demotion, discipline, or resignation of any individual salaried public officer or employee, city treasurer salary. 19D, discussion of possible action on entering into executive session as permitted under 25 OS 307B1, discussing the employment, hiring, appointment, promotion, demotion, discipline, or resignation of an individual salaried public officer or employee, city manager's contract and salary. Make a motion to enter into executive session with our city attorney and our city manager and assistant city manager as called.
Second.
Motion and second to enter into an executive session.
Okay. Mike Foley?
Yes.
Tommy Clyde?
Yes.
Yes.
Good night.
Oh,
Good
Carl.
night.
Yeah.
See you, guys.
Take a 3.5 minute break.